All right. Good morning, everybody. Let me know if the microphone and everything is working. We should be good to go. Thank you, everybody, for being here. It is Friday, January 30th, and we are live, or we should be live. Sounds great. Sounds great. We're good. Okay, cool. We are live. Good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is the last trading day of January 2026. We just had SoFi earnings. Yes, 2 days until the meetup. Very excited to meet everybody in a couple days in New York City. I know I said I was going to stream SoFi earnings. To be honest, I woke up and I just went and got coffee with Chris instead. It's like, bro. I was like, let's just go get some coffee. The numbers are already out. And we'll just do the market open as regular. So we'll talk about SoFi. We'll talk about silver. We'll talk about gold. There are some good takeaways from the call, but yeah, we just didn't end up listening to the call this morning. But still, SoFi crushed it, which is the most important thing. I actually didn't wake up late. I woke up 2 hours ago, but Chris is here. I was like, dude, let's just get some coffee. I didn't want to leave Chris alone in the room while I'm just sitting here listening to SoFi's call. So I was like, Chris, let's get some coffee. Just chill for a bit. But we're back. And we're live, and we got a lot to talk about. So a bunch of different things happening over the past 24 hours. Number one is we have a new Fed chair nominee from Trump. Very surprising Fed chair nominee. So we got to talk about that because I think it's affecting the broader equity markets, obviously the credit markets. Honestly, it's a very weird pick. I did not expect it. And so we'll talk about it this morning. Even Chris was surprised when he woke up. He was like, really? That's who he's picking? So we'll talk about that. Talk about SoFi earnings. Silver and gold are having their worst day in 10 years in the pre-market. It's pretty ugly. Yesterday, silver was hitting 121 an ounce. Gold was hitting 5,600. They are both now down. Silver 15%. Again, it's been more than 15 years since we've seen 15% down on silver. This is within less than 10 hours. And then gold is down 6%. These assets shouldn't be moving like this, but they are. So there's a lot to dissect right there. I think the new Fed chair nominee is probably one of the reasons why this is happening as well. SoFi, let's get into that real quick, and then we'll get into gold, silver, macro, and everything else that's going on. They crushed it. They absolutely crushed it. This was a phenomenal quarter. Unfortunately, the stock is not going to the moon right now, but that's okay. It's up 5%. 5% is still very respectable after an earnings like this. And quite frankly, if you're a long-term investor, this stock should be irrelevant right now because the company executed at such a strong level that you can't be too upset at this quarter. 1.03 billion in revenue, beating 982. EPS, they beat. Adjusted EBITDA, 60% year-over-year growth. This was their first quarter, not only crossing $1 billion in quarterly revenue, but also hitting 1 million members, which is what everyone's been waiting for the first time in a single quarter. That's a big deal. 10.5 billion in total loan originations, up 46% year over year, and then 7.5 billion in personal loan originations. Remember, rates going down should be bullish for SoFi. And given the student loan origination growth, the total originations and personal loan originations, along with home originations, the numbers are fantastic. I mean, it's absolutely incredible the level of growth that SoFi is putting up. And so the thesis is intact, not only from a growth perspective, if you're investing this for a growth stock, but from for growth, right? Most people that invest in banks are for dividends and stability. SoFi is a bank, but you're investing it for growth. The growth is absolutely there, but also the broader argument around financials and the macro environment being a tailwind for financials. That's also what you're seeing for SoFi. Notice as 2025 was a tremendous year, and the fourth quarter was nothing short of exceptional, delivering more than $1 billion in quarterly revenue. Our one-stop shop is scaling exactly as intended and delivering a winning combination of growth and returns. We added a record 1 million new members this quarter and drove record product growth. At the same time, we moved with urgency to lead the next phase of financial services by delivering crypto and blockchain innovation backed by bank-grade stability and security. This combination of scale, innovation, profitability positions SoFi to drive durable compounding growth and deliver superior financial results in 2026 and for years to come. I hope the stock can get some more momentum throughout the day. It is SoFi, and historically it kind of pumps and then ends out flat, and it takes time for these results to be recognized by the market. But if there's a world where this, gaps up to $27 today, $28, I don't think anyone would be surprised. Be very likely to see SoFi do that. Question is just, do they have the momentum in them based on this earnings to get there? And I think there is a shot, but time is going to tell. So that's what we got on SoFi. Real quick, let's just hear from Noto, and then we will get into all the macro stuff. We got a bunch of different macro stuff going on, and then we will talk about Kevin Warsh.
Strong and got it the first quarter to 35% year-over-year revenue growth and the full year at 30%. it really reflects the innovation that we're driving, the number of new products that we're building, as well as the increased awareness through our branding efforts. So all cylinders are hitting very strongly right now, and it's coming out with these results. It's really unprecedented, 37% revenue growth with 29% margins.
Yeah, Anthony, over the last year, your stock has performed remarkably well. It's up by about 55% over the last year. But if you look at it for the year to date, it's down. And there are several reasons for that. The first would be that capital raise that you all did in December, $1.5 billion. People are a little worried about dilution there. Another issue is just you guys have all these new offerings that you mentioned. Cryptocurrency has been under some pressure, and that has weighed on everybody who is making some of those offerings. But why don't we go through those one by one? First of all, the capital raise that you did, what are you doing with the money? What do you say back to any concerns on Wall Street about that?
Sure, it was really an opportunistic capital raise. We saw an opportunity to add to our balance sheet. Many people are looking at it in different lenses, but the way we look at it is it was accretive to our tangible book value. Our tangible book value increased by more than $2 per share to $7 overall. And the capital that we put on the balance sheet gives us great flexibility to either drive faster growth in 2026. If we find something from an M&A perspective that would fortify our competitive position, we could do that. We can also reduce debt and improve our cost of funding. So, accretive to tangible book value is a really great measurement for us to evaluate these capital raises by. There's no specific use, but it gives us a lot of optionality.
So, I mean, look, Noto once again justifying why they diluted, what they're going to do with the money, how they're going to continue to grow the business. Again, top line earnings growth was exceptional. Same with revenue. The guide was also really good for those that were asking for the guide. I mean, they put up some pretty important numbers. 60 cents of EPS. They're probably going to bring that to 80 cents, maybe $1 by the end of the year. 4.6 billion in revenue, 825 million GAAP net income, 34% adjusted EBITDA margins, 30% member growth they're guiding for this fiscal year, and 1.6 billion of adjusted EBITDA. So it's a good quarter. It's not a quarter that I think anyone should be too sad about. Stock price is a stock price. If you've covered SoFi for a long time, you know it's not easy for this thing to pump on earnings. It's up 5%. This is why this stock is one of the best stocks in the entire market for covered calls. And so if you got some covered calls on it, you'll probably be okay. You can roll them if it's in the money. But if we do get some explosive moves when the market opens, then obviously I think it would be justified given the earnings. All right, let's talk about Kevin Warsh. We got the new Fed chair nominee. It is Kevin Warsh, and I thought it was not going to be Kevin Warsh. I think a lot of us thought it was going to be Rick Rieder. It ended up not being Rick Rieder. Real quick, we just got producer price inflation. Did we just get PPI today? Is this PPI? This has to be PPI, right? I did not know we were getting PPI today. Producer prices rose 0.5% month over month in December. Oh, this is December's. This is the one that was delayed, I think. The largest gain in 3 months, accelerating from 0.2% increase in November and exceeding expectations of 0.2. Dude, I did not think we were getting PPI on a Friday. Usually that never happens. Okay, that's a little bit of an ugly number. Hold on. Before we talk about Warsh, SPY just dropped 0.5% right there. Largest gain in 3 months on PPI. Ew, that's not good. Gold and silver continuing their dump on this. You actually think those might gap up if inflation is higher than expected. All right, well, I'll have to see how the market interprets that. Street was expecting way less than what we had right there for PPI. CPI, again, I think 2 weeks ago we got that was not as bad as this. PPI month over month, the Street wanted 0.2. We came in at 0.5. Core PPI, wow. Street wanted 0.2. We came in at 0.7. Yeah, price of oil. That's a good point. Year over year, ew. Street wanted 2.9. We came in at 3.3. Dude, did anyone know we had PPI today? I feel like that's kind of important. I had no freaking clue they were putting this out today. Oh my, that's an ugly number. I don't think we've had that bad of a miss in like a year on PPI, which eventually translates to the consumer, right? If the prices get passed down, I mean, that's kind of the logic behind it. S&P, it's down 0.5%, not too, I mean, it was kind of down around 0.3 already. I could see the market not really loving that PPI report. Or maybe that's why it was delayed. Maybe Oil prices right now, where are they? They were up 5% yesterday. They're down today. They're getting a little bit of reprieve. This thing was closer to 58, though, a couple of weeks ago. So you can understand how that started to gap up some of the producer price inflation levels. All right, so that actually segues really well into Kevin Warsh, because the PPI is not dovish. It's hawkish when you look at the numbers. I don't think we're going to get a rate hike, but I mean, one could look at these numbers and potentially think, hey, we shouldn't be cutting rates. And that begs the question, why the hell is this guy the nominee? Based on the research I've done over the past couple of hours, he's a hawk. He is a hawk. Kevin Warsh is not a dove by any sense of the imagination. And you got a lot of people that are really confused why Trump nominated him. Do they have some backdoor deal? Did he promise Trump he was not going to be hawkish? If you looked at any of his history, for some context on who this guy is, in 2008, he wanted to raise rates. When the economy was collapsing and we basically took rates to damn near negative, this guy wanted to raise rates. So it's weird because obviously Trump does not want someone who's going to raise rates. He literally wants a dove. But you can see right here from Bloomberg, he is a harsh Fed critic. He has a hawkish reputation, and he doesn't believe that the government should intervene when it comes to monetary policy unless it's absolutely necessary. And when it is necessary, he has tended to vote for a more hawkish stance on policy. Maybe to reclaim faith in the dollar. That's fair. One could also argue the dollar right there up a little bit. Now, again, Trump likes a weak dollar, so not sure how much Trump cares about the dollar right here. But the bond market could not handle Hasset because Hasset just seems like a political hack. But the bond market, I don't think necessarily loves someone who's super hawkish like a Warsh. So a Rick Reeder, who was in the leading candidate for the past couple of weeks, seemed like the ultimate compromise. It seemed like an amazing pick, especially given how dovish he is around opening the housing market up, which requires more rate cuts. The 10-year right there is still spiking up 4.25. So this is confusing. It's confusing to say the least. Now, granted, if Trump's picking him, I think there's three scenarios. Number one, Trump and him have a deal, and he knows that he's going to be dovish. That's scenario one. I think that's actually kind of the most likely, given how hawkish he is. Number two, Trump is getting duped by this guy, and he's actually super hawkish, told him he would be dovish. Trump is believing him, and in reality, he's going to be super hawkish, and then he's going to dupe Trump. Or number three, Trump wants someone to complain about, and so he's picking someone who he knows is going to suck so he can complain about him. Now, number three is a little bit of a stretch, but it's something to think about because it makes you wonder, like if you're so annoyed that rates are higher and this guy has a legacy of not wanting rates to be lower, why would you put him? It's very confusing. And I'm sure there has to be something that I don't know about, something that we all don't know about for why he picks this guy. Or maybe Trump just wants someone to keep, he wants another punching bag. I don't know. So it's very confusing. I guess we'll see how the bond market and the credit markets react to it. Some context on this guy. He is a fan of the asset that we all want to go up that has not gone up, which is Bitcoin. Here's what he said a couple of years ago around digital money.
You made reference to Bitcoin, and I thought I heard a little bit of condescension that people are buying Bitcoin and these things.
But doesn't it, Charlie Munger, this is 2 or 3 years before he died, Charlie Munger attacked Bitcoin. He called it evil, in part because it would begin to undermine the Fed's ability to manage the economy.
Or it could provide market discipline, or it could tell the world that things need to be fixed.
Bitcoin does not make you nervous.
Bitcoin does not make me nervous. I can harken back to a dinner I had here in 2011 with someone who is another guest on your show. I won't say his name. I just did Mark Andreessen, who showed me the white paper. That was the original white paper. I wish I had understood as clearly as he did how transformative Bitcoin and this new technology would be. Bitcoin doesn't trouble me. I think of it as an important asset that can help inform policymakers when they're doing things right and wrong.
That should be freaking bullish for crypto. I mean, regardless of if he's a hawk or a dove. Now, Bitcoin and Ethereum, unfortunately, over the past 24 hours, really feeling it right there. 83 to 82.6, BM&R, MicroStrategy, all getting hit. And then Ethereum right there at 2,700. The Clarity Act has not been passed yet, so we're waiting for that catalyst. But he does seem to be a little bit more bullish than not around crypto. Now, the biggest question I think people are wondering is, why did silver and gold dump when this guy was announced? I mean, they were already dumping overnight, but did he create a catalyst for them to dump even more? I think my logic here, and I'd love to see people's comments in the chat, is that if this guy is hawkish, he might actually get inflation under control, even if it comes at the risk of the equity markets. If he gets inflation under control, then why would you buy gold and silver? You can buy the dollar. You can buy treasuries. You can buy the stock market. So gold and silver, if they're functioning as an inflation hedge, which I know there's a lot more to the thesis, but if the core argument is they're functioning as a hedge against uncertainty, inflation, and like reckless monetary policy, if this guy actually starts to get things in order, then gold and silver aren't that attractive anymore. So, I mean, maybe that's the argument. Where's copper? Copper is falling with gold and silver, which I will say this once again, I am having many doubts. I have a $12,000, now it's like a $15,000 copper position, and I think that's the most it's ever going to be. Like, this week really showed me this shit is just following gold and silver. It's an altcoin. It's a precious metal altcoin. And I'm just like, I don't know. I'm really questioning, like, is there a thesis here? There's great research, or is this just following gold and silver? Because the lack of divergence between this thing and gold and silver to me is just saying, okay, it's if you're going to play the precious metals, you better hope that gold and silver don't crash. And so I'm not as excited as I was a week ago around copper. I have my position again. It's like $15,000, but I was thinking of making it $100,000 position and really riding it. Now I'm just like, if I might as well just buy silver at that point. Like, if I'm gonna, I don't know. The precious metals thing is weird. If I get into precious metals, I don't want to be up 15% or down 15% a day. At that point, I'd rather take a chance on freaking SanDisk, which we'll talk about. But do I think silver has topped? It's hard to say, which means copper's probably not topped and gold probably hasn't topped. I mean, this thing was up 18% 2 days ago, then it was down 7%, then it was up 5% yesterday. Now it's down 13%. Who's to say this thing does not come back and have more momentum? Silver is also heavily manipulated. That's another reason I kind of don't like the precious metals trade, because it does feel like if there's more manipulation entering into the ecosystem, then every other alternative precious metal is going to get hit. I mean, take a look at this stat yesterday. The 7th straight day of outflows for SLV, which totaled 2.4 billion, second biggest drain of any ETF, despite being up 64% to start the year. So you've got massive outflows out of this ETF, even though it's up dramatically, because at this point, it seems like people are just trading it. That's it. People are just trading it. People aren't actually investing in this. It seems like it's becoming an asset for people to just ride up and down, which is fine. It's just, this is not supposed to be an asset for people to ride up and down. It's supposed to be something you long-term invest in, and that's not what it's seeming like. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not getting into silver and gold. I'll keep the copper position, but I am fully ready to see this thing go down and go up. Realistically, I don't think that there is a meaningful divergence of trend to be super excited on any metal outside of the big two, because the big two are controlling everything. And so it's weird, but if Kevin Warsh is going to be able to stabilize monetary policy, maybe silver and gold don't really get the benefit, or maybe that argument is nonsense and silver and gold are down just for the hell of being down and they'll be back up tomorrow or in the next 5 hours. Like, I think it's very difficult to predict these cycles, but they are having the worst day they've had since 2008 at this point in the pre-market. SanDisk right there, that's up 22%, $660, hit 673. They beat earnings by 100%. They beat revenue by 30%. I mean, it's just incredible to see the momentum in the memory names. They said they are going to be booked till the end of 2027. They have deals with every single hyperscaler. I mean, what do you say? We all kind of knew this was going to happen yesterday. I think that SanDisk was going to absolutely crush it. But when I asked the chat who's buying it, very few people said they could stomach buying it. And I get it. EPS up 4x year over year. Revenue's up 61% year over year. This stock is up 1,600% over the past year. It's now up 150% year to date. It was up 500% year to date last year. It was the best performing stock in the S&P 500. And quite frankly, it's probably going higher. And same thing with Micron. Now, put in the chat if you have the stomach to buy Micron at 450. I asked the same question when Micron was 220 after a rally from $85 back in December. A lot of people did not. I would say 95% of people said they couldn't stomach buying it. Can you stomach buying it at 450, knowing that it's trading at a forward PE of 14, which is not expensive? It's cheaper than pretty much every other semiconductor name that's out there. But can you buy after it's up 50% this year? It's not easy. And I am seriously thinking of it, but I'm also just like, one bad headline around memory shortage. Because right now, all we've got is good headlines around memory shortage. You get one bad headline, I don't know how the market treats them. But it's also like, this is not trading at like 800 times earnings. It's not trading at a crazy multiple. So even if there is a correction, it should be relatively tame. You did have that insider buy about 10 million worth of stock at 337, showing a lot of confidence. And I don't know. It feels like memory is not slowing down. Feels like memory is not slowing down. And again, AMD, NVIDIA. Wow, why is AMD down 4%? Uh-oh. I was going to say AMD and NVIDIA should be benefiting from this memory super cycle, but the memory stocks are getting all of the benefit, not any of the companies that are creating the demand for the memory stocks. NVIDIA is down 1. That's an AMD specific thing, going down 4. What's the headline on AMD? What do we got? What do we have for AMD? Or is that just a freak 4% move out of nowhere? Jim Cramer just said AMD keeps winning. There's no way that could be the reason, right? There's no way that's AMD. I don't know, guys. Down 4% on this big of a company. Usually there's a headline. I don't see it. I see 0 headlines. That's weird. 0 headlines. What ticker did you buy for copper? COPX, COPX. It is the copper miner ETF. Again, I bought options when this thing was basically 80. It was at 95 yesterday. Today it's 87. Not selling it because, I don't know, I think I got it at a relatively decent price, but if silver tanks, then that thing will probably take a bit of a beating as well. SoFi still up 5%. I don't see anything for AMD. AMD still going down 4%. I don't see anything for AMD. But the point I was making is the memory stocks getting all the momentum when the demand that's creating that momentum is coming from the NVIDIAs and AMDs of the world, and NVIDIA and AMD not getting that same type of momentum. Now, granted, I understand the valuations are different, yada, yada, but it is quite incredible. I mean, Micron's basically trading at the same market cap as AMD. Even the valuation's different from a price earnings perspective, but never mind. Micron's at 500 billion market cap. AMD's at 410. Like, I don't know if that necessarily makes sense when you hear that in a vacuum. Now, when you go into the details, like, yeah, you can see how that makes sense. But it's like, I think AMD is a much more valuable and important company long-term than Micron. So it reinforces this idea that Micron's a trade, AMD's an investment, but the trade is doing way better than the investment right now. I think that's kind of a little bit of the FOMO that everyone has to resist. Not to say Micron can't go a lot higher, because honestly, it feels like it will. We got some quotes from Waller, who's on the Fed. Inflation is elevated from tariffs, but monetary policy should look through those effects given anchored expectations. Labor market does not look remotely healthy, and while supply was a factor, demand is weak. He's right about that. Labor market is getting a little dicey with some of the headlines I've been seeing. He says policy should be closer to neutral, perhaps around 3%. Expect weak job numbers from last year to be revised lower to reflect virtually no growth in payroll employment. Wow. Heard of multiple layoffs planned for 2026 with considerable doubt about job growth and significant risk of substantial deterioration. So Waller coming out and basically saying we need to cut these damn rates because layoffs are becoming a bit too aggressive. There is the headline on all the layoffs we've seen in the past year. As you can see right here, the latest was Amazon with 30,000 employees, but there's a lot more companies. And Waller basically saying right here, don't believe any of the unemployment numbers because we have a lot more layoffs to go, and we're going to revise down the labor market numbers from last year, which means rates need to come down. Now, Jay Powell said the risk to the labor market weakening has been subdued over the past couple months. That's what he said at FOMC a couple days ago, which is why they didn't cut rates. Waller going the complete opposite. Waller going the complete opposite. Have you talked about SoFi yet? Yes, we talked about SoFi beginning of the show. They crushed it. I hope the stock goes higher, but at the end of the day, it's SoFi stock. But they crushed earnings. I don't see a single reason to sell at all. But it is a little bit of a weird of a macro day, so we got to see if the market interprets it. Let's get a little bit more coverage on Warsh, and then we'll keep going from there. We got 20 minutes until the market opens. I will try to figure out what's going on with AMD.
Interviewed by the president, and he ended up where he is right now at a person who I believe is viewed as among the more hawkish of the candidates and more hawkish than Fed Chair Powell. At the same time, he's a tremendous supporter of the president's policies. And I think where we're at right now, Becky, is maybe on the doorstep of an experiment here, because the conservative critique of the Fed is that the Fed should be setting policy in line with what they believe President Trump's policies will do. and they believe that will increase supply, allow the economy to run hotter, and allow the Fed to run rates at a lower federal funds rate. I think there are people on the Fed, in fact, I know there's people on the Fed who agree with that general forecast if it comes true. I think the difference is a matter of timing, that they don't want to cut those rates preemptively. They want to see the lower inflation, see the higher productivity. So it may be that Fed Chair Warsh comes in and cuts rates right away, and does so in the face of what might still be 3% inflation.
Which is what I think Trump and him have kind of pseudo agreed on. And, you know, maybe that's the reason why he has made the pick. Also, just a fun fact, the founder of Estee Lauder, his daughter is married to Kevin Warsh, and the founder of Estee Lauder is a very big donator to Trump. Now, I'm not saying Kevin Warsh got the job because of his father-in-law, but I am saying that there is a connection over there. So I don't know. It's very confusing why he picked a hawk over Rick Rieder, who is on record being as dovish as you can imagine. But that's who he picked. And maybe it's something out of loyalty. Maybe he knows Kevin Warsh over the past decade. Maybe he knows, you know, Rick Rieder is going to put up a fight sometimes in terms of the relationship that he wants to have with the Fed chair, and Warsh is going to be more loyal, even if he's going to seem like he's a hawk. Like maybe there's a lot of 4D chess that's going on right here. But he is the new Fed chair nominee. Why is AMD down 5.5%? I still don't see a headline on why this is happening. Insider selling, is that that can't be the reason, dude. Who cares if Lisa Seuss sells some shares? For all of you guys correcting my pronunciation, I think you guys need to download Duolingo and actually like learn English. Like honestly, it'll help the stock, but it'll also help you guys understand how to speak this language, okay? Like I was born in America. I understand how to speak this language. So I would recommend downloading Duolingo. It's free. You'll have to watch a 30-second ad. You'll get some lessons and you'll stop having to correct me. Okay, why is AMD down 5? I still don't see the headline. All I have is this Jim Cramer, AMD CEO, just keeps winning. That came out this morning. I really hope that's not the reason. We have a couple other earnings. Let me pull these up right here. American Express, they missed by 1% on EPS. They beat on revenue. Revenue's up 10% year over year. EPS is up 16% year over year. AMD keeps going down. It's about to go down 6%. Still don't know why. American Express is down 2% on the day. So you got American Express taking a little bit of a hit. You also have Verizon. They crushed it. They beat by 3% on EPS, beat by 1% on revenue. Also, they're doing buybacks. Verizon stock, wow, 5%. This is not a high beta name that should be moving 5%, but the buybacks, I think, is getting the street excited right there. 41.85 is that one is moving some momentum. HSBC downgraded them from 335 to 300. That can't be the reason for them to fall 5%. A $35 downgrade that is still $80 out of the money is causing a stock to go down $15 right now. Like that, I can understand if they downgraded them like below where the price was at 250. I actually want AMD is a really big company in the semiconductor space. It's like Nvidia being down 5%. You can't just ignore that. There's got to be something there. And literally all I see is this Jim Cramer headline. I don't know. That's weird. That is very weird. But that one is down for AMD. Microsoft, by the way, worst day they had since they're recovering a little bit in the pre-market, but they lost $450 billion in market cap yesterday. Worst day since 2020. Stock is now at 435, got to 421. Do you guys remember who sold a lot of Microsoft? Put in the chat if you remember. We found this out last quarter when the 13Fs came out. Do we remember who sold a crap ton of Microsoft? 64% of their Microsoft, that made us all wonder, why the hell are they getting out of so much Microsoft? Maybe they knew something that was going to happen. That is correct. For those that are saying the founder of Microsoft, Bill Gates. They sold a lot of MSFT last quarter at around $500. Pelosi never owned it. AMD talk of possible delayed chip shipment. That's the headline. Really? Delayed chips? All right. I guess that's your headline. That's the best headline we got right now. I don't know if that's enough of a reason to be too scared about that. I mean, as long as they deliver, that's a supply thing, not a demand thing, which is an issue. But you know, if you trust AMD has the right execution, eventually that should be resolved. So that should be the reason potentially why that stock is down 5%. But that's also a rumor. That's not a Bloomberg thing. That's just a rumor. That's not anything specific yet. But yeah, Gates sold a lot of Microsoft. Maybe he knew that there was going to be an issue with Microsoft. But when you look at the earnings, what's the issue? That OpenAI is part of their RPO? Like, if that's really the issue, this stock lost $400 billion of market cap yesterday. I think the SaaS being dead stuff is a bit overblown. I understand the narrative. I think the narrative should have some credibility. I don't know if the narrative deserves to take ServiceNow down 10%, Salesforce down 7%, Adobe down 5%. Palantir is getting caught in the carnage of this as well. Palantir down 2% right here in the pre-markets. It's weird. It's very weird. But 45% of the remaining their remaining performance obligations is from OpenAI. I guess the market just doesn't love that a lot of Microsoft's backlog growth is from this company that they don't seem to trust. But I don't know if that's the worst reason in the world to take this stock down 10%. I mean, Microsoft now is a $3.2 trillion company. It was holding $3.8 trillion company as a market cap for the past almost a year at this point. As that one is now trying to recover pre-markets. AMD still down 5%. Again, this chip delay shipment is a rumor. Nothing confirmed on that, but it looks like that's the best reason we have for why that's down. A couple other earnings this morning. So Verizon crushed it. SoFi crushed it. ExxonMobil looks like they crushed it as well. Beat by 1% on the top and the bottom. ExxonMobil stock, that is down about 1.43%. So you got a little bit of retracement right there. And then Chevron beat by 6% on EPS. And they came in line on revenue. Chevron is flat as well in the pre-markets. Probably related to OpenAI. You know, that would make sense, to be honest. That would be a way better reason than chip shipment delays. Also, when's the last time AMD had some real like supply shipment problems on delay? Like Broadcom had that issue and CoreWeave had that issue last quarter. I think it's, maybe I'm wrong, I think it's been a minute since AMD actually like had such a supply glut where they couldn't actually get chips delivered. Even NVIDIA hasn't had that problem. So I don't know. That's a weird rumor for that to be happening, but you're seeing that one still get hit. Verizon right there, still up 5%. And then SoFi, again, they crushed earnings. SoFi right there, 25.74. That's up 5.67%. I don't think I've ever heard of any supply chain issues for quite a while, if ever, on AMD. Yeah, I agree. I mean, you've even heard of some of this stuff for TSMC before you've heard of it for AMD. So that is a little weird. If you are just joining, Kevin Warsh is now the new nominee for being the Fed chair. Silver and gold don't seem to like that, as they are having their worst day in 15 years. And SoFi crushed earnings this morning. And AMD is down 5%, but we don't exactly know why. Now, government shutdown stuff. Trump pretty much said yesterday that the Democrats and him have come to a really good short-term deal to keep the government open. So I don't think we have to worry too much about a government shutdown. The odds have collapsed dramatically for us actually having a shutdown. Now, there probably still will be a shutdown, like a technical shutdown, but it'll be opened really quick after the shutdown because we only have a couple of days to, so, you know, the bill still has to go into law, all that stuff. So while it might be announced that there's a shutdown, Senate Republican leader Thune has confirmed that they are working with the Democrats and they are very likely to come to a deal. So that shouldn't be a major headwind that the markets have to deal with going into February. Are you going to do Palantir earnings? Yes, I'm doing Palantir earnings. We're not doing Palantir weekly. I talked about it a couple of days ago. Again, you got people across the world. It's kind of hard to get schedules to line up. So unfortunately, we will not be doing Palantir weekly, but we will be doing the earnings. We will be spending time after the earnings analyzing it. I know Palantir has had some struggles with its stock. Again, the stock is incredibly expensive at the end of the day. SaaS is not in favor right now. I think Palantir can shut everybody up by putting up some amazing numbers, which I expect them to do. But it's not just Palantir. Every beloved name from last year is not really living up to the hype of 2026. What's living up to the hype of January? Micron, Rocket Lab, Lunar, ASTS, SanDisk, ServiceNow, or no, sorry, not ServiceNow, gold, silver, right? Like memory, nuclear, energy, Bloom Energy, all these are the themes that Robinhood, Palantir, NVIDIA, Tesla, they're just not part of. These drone stocks are trading at 200 times sales, up 50% this year. Palantir, Hood, except they're just not in these categories. And so it's a lot of these older names, Meta right there down about 1% of the pre-markets, that had a lot of fun over the past couple of years that are just not getting that momentum to start 2026. And that's okay. But that also is the reality of what we're dealing with right here. Bro tried to seek ServiceNow. Yeah, I saw ServiceNow on the watch list. I was like, no, wait a second. ServiceNow is not experiencing that momentum. But if you looked at what Bill McDermott said, the CEO, yesterday, the dude is like tying his entire compensation package to performance of the stock. Stock's down 50% since the split. And it's just like, it's weird. Like, you got a CEO who's very eager to put up results, guiding for 20% growth. And the street's just like, we don't believe that this is going to last. And it's also, it's like, when did the street become an absolute expert on AI commoditizing enterprise workflows? Like, but that's how the street's acting. And all of these SaaS companies are getting hit as a result of that. So what do you mean it's okay? It's not okay. No, it actually, I mean, look, when a stock goes up 20x over 3 years, if it takes a breather, I think it is okay. I think it actually allows the stock to consolidate into its valuation. If you bought the stock at the top, it's not okay for you. But if we're being objective here, and I know that sucks, and I've been in that same situation, but if we're being objective, to go from 6 to 150 and then to chill out for a while is not crazy. There's no investor on the planet that will tell you, oh, and now it needs to go to 300. It's like, no, like at the end of the day, these valuations have to be factored into the broader ecosystem of the market. And right now, Palantir, Hood, Tesla, these valuations are not in favor. But what is in favor is SanDisk and Micron and these companies that are putting up just growth numbers that you can't even imagine. The question is, do you buy into that momentum or do you not? And for the people that bought into the silver momentum yesterday, you're really feeling it right now, down 15%. It's not fun. Now, maybe this thing comes back, but how much risk do you want to take to navigate this volatility? You think Hood is solid at current level? So what happened with Hood yesterday was actually some really good news. We got the Trump accounts. Bloomberg is reporting that Hood is going to be one of the biggest beneficiaries of getting all of those Trump accounts. And I think that's super bullish for Hood. That's a good thing. We've been talking about this for the past year, that Hood probably would be one of the main beneficiaries of even getting 50% of the 3.5 million accounts every year. That means that these kids would be getting money from the government, from taxpayers, added into Robinhood, and then holding that money on Robinhood for 30 years, every single year. I mean, you're talking about massive, massive compounding growth that is essentially funded by taxpayers. Robinhood, it just has the technology to consolidate all that. However, I don't think that resolves the short-term problems with Robinhood, which, once again, said this every single day for the past month at this point, the short-term problem with Hood is crypto. And like, I just really hope people can understand that one of the reasons Robinhood went from 6 to 150 is because Bitcoin went from 20 to 120. Bitcoin is now stuck in the low 80s. It went down from 120 to 80. The downside volatility also exists with the upside volatility. And for everyone who got to ride the upside volatility, that's amazing. I'm not saying Robinhood only went up because of crypto, but it definitely helped when it was 37% of the revenue for the past couple of quarters. So for that to now go down, whether it's justified or not, and quite frankly, I don't think it's that justified because Robinhood is such a diversified business model. But if the market is going to treat it like that, you can't argue with the market. And so when you say, is Hood a good buy right here? Well, if Bitcoin goes down, no, it's not a good buy right here. Like, just to be honest, is Bitcoin going to go down or up? I don't know. Right now, the trend is not in your favor. And so from that perspective, I think a lot of the names that, I mean, these momentum catalysts can flip the opposite direction. By the way, the momentum catalyst for memory, which is in favor, AMD now down 6%, can also flip the opposite direction. And it is scary, but it also depends on your risk tolerance to navigate it going back and forth. Micron right there, that's up 3.5%. Verizon's up 5%. Palantir down 1.75%. Again, Palantir getting hit a lot more with this SaaS carnage. Bitcoin right there, 82.9. S&P 500 in general, that is down 0.3. Apple crushed earnings yesterday. Apple was incredible. That stock is down. I don't think it deserves to be down, but then again, it trades at a 34 times price to earnings, and it's only growing EPS 15%, but it's the most amount of growth that Apple has had in the past 4 years. EPS was 284 versus 268. Revenue was 143 versus 138. China revenue beat by 4 billion, 21.8 versus 25.5. it was a phenomenal quarter across the board. It's just Apple is also expensive. And, you know, it gets a lot of different premiums associated with it that are Apple-specific premiums. But will the street give it an even higher premium than it's trading right now just for putting up really good growth? Time will tell. But we needed them to have a good growth. If they didn't smash earnings, you know, this would be not the best for the broader market. And so I think it's good that Apple crushed. Governor Waller dropped a statement saying the Fed should have cut rates. Yes, we just listened to his statements. He said that the labor market is in a tough place right now, and he believes we should have cut rates. Him and Moran were the only ones that dissented on the idea of getting these rate cuts. Unfortunately, they were outvoted 10-2, and hopefully, you know, we get these rate cuts in the future. But right now, we are not seeing that. Again, PPI came in way hotter than expected as well. This is another reason I think the market is going to have some issues today. Kevin Warsh is the new Fed chair candidate. He is historically hawkish. So you've got a hawkish Fed chair and a very disgusting PPI print, 3.3 on the core versus 2.9 expected, and then 0.2 versus 0.7 expected on the monthly, 0.5 versus 0.2 on monthly X core. These are horrible PPI numbers. Now, Waller coming out and saying, hey, we should still be cutting rates because the labor market matters more. I agree with that. But I don't know how the market's going to interpret that type of miss on PPI compared to what Waller is saying. Not to mention, Warsh, again, is a bit hawkish, and the markets are having to deal with that, which technically the bond market should be happy about because that means he's going to get inflation under control. But inflation is not necessarily out of control unless, you know, you think these PPI numbers could be trending to a worse spot. The other big headline yesterday, we got 3 minutes until the market opens, is Tesla. Big rumor. We don't know if it's necessarily true. Elon kind of confirmed it, kind of didn't. Elon Musk's SpaceX is set to consider a merger with Tesla or XAI. I think this makes a lot of sense because it's hard to justify Tesla's valuation right now. It's also hard to justify SpaceX IPO valuation. It's quite frankly also hard to justify XAI's $200 billion valuation. I mean, Grok is a loser compared to Gemini and GPT. Let's just be honest. I mean, when we're talking about user growth, momentum, like Grok is not what Grok is a top tier foundation model, but from a monetization perspective, from a subscription perspective, they're probably not really in the same ballpark with Anthropic, Gemini, or GPT. So merging XAI and Tesla and SpaceX to create a symbiotic Musk enterprise ecosystem. Musk has discussed using SpaceX Starship rockets to carry Tesla's Optimus robots to the moon. XAI could benefit enormously from computing capacity provided by SpaceX data centers in space. I mean, it seems like that would be pretty cool. Now, does it actually happen? I don't know. But if you're a Tesla shareholder, that would be pretty epic. Question is just if that plays out. Apple right here. We got 2 minutes until the open, falling 1%. AMD now 6%. The delay on chip shipments is a rumor, but that is the only argument I see right now for why AMD could be down. Nothing else besides that. Nebius is getting hit 3%. The data center names, Iran getting hit 3%. Oracle, that's getting hit by about 0.5%. It's flat. SoFi, unfortunately, it's just a tough macro day for SoFi to report, but they absolutely demolished earnings. I think if you hold the stock and you see a really, I mean, if this thing goes below 24 or something, I think it's a buy the dip instantly. So 25.49. Let's see if that can hold and get some momentum. Green or red poll. I forgot to do that. Let me do that real quick. Oh, Tom Lee went on the compound today. Oh boy, we're going to see Tom Lee on the compound. All right, green or red today. What do we think? Last trading day of January 2026. Thank you everybody for being here. 9:30 a.m. The stock market is now open. All right, wake your ass up. Let's get into it. S&P 500, 692.15. That opens red, down about 0.25% on the day, 692.40 for the S&P 500. AMD opens down that 5%. Still don't have a reason why it's necessarily down, but it is getting hit by 5%. SoFi opens up 4%. Silver, she's going down 15%. Worst day in 17 years for silver. And it all happened in a couple of hours. Let's see if it can rebound or if it continues to get hit. Palantir, 149.94, trying to get back to 150. ServiceNow, a little bit of momentum to the upside. Verizon, 5.2%. That's green. Micron, 450. Let's check SanDisk. They crushed earnings. That stock at 660, up 22% on the day. As that continues to go green, the memory super cycle is not slowing down. If you're in the memory names, congratulations. You have picked the best possible sector you could be in for 2026. And the growth on these stocks is absolutely phenomenal. D-Wave down another 2%. It was down 7% yesterday. The quantum names getting hit. Netflix, 83.47. By the way, ZSL, silver ETF, that's up 32%. 32% on the day. The silver shorts are winning. Wow, SanDisk, 674. 674. Where is SoFi? My goodness, completely losing the momentum. It's kind of laughable at this point. 24.38. I think the market just doesn't like this stock because you can't hate those earnings, but the entire pump on SoFi has dissipated. S&P 692, that's down 0.5%. Nebius about to go below 90. Iran about to go below 5%. We do have a lot of options expiring today, last day of the month, so you could definitely expect a little bit of weird behavior from the options market. It also is a Friday. People tend to sell off on Friday, so maybe we're going to see some more pain. COPEX down 7%. Unfortunately, copper is at this point just a proxy for silver and gold. And it's actually completely making me lose a lot of my faith in any fundamental thesis that I have on this thing, because it's just reacting to silver and gold, just like an altcoin reacts to Bitcoin and Ethereum. And so the precious metals are in a very weird spot right now. Intel, that's down 2%. Rocket Lab goes a little green. ASTS, that's up 2.6%. ASTS trying to get to all-time highs. It's kind of weird. You have random names pushing green and then other entire sectors going down. Amcor down 1%. MasterCard down 0.5%. MP Materials, that one trying to go green. Rocket's down 10%. I think Rocket Mortgage doesn't like the Warsh pick. Rick Reeder was very clear that we need to get mortgage rates down. I don't know if Kevin Warsh has talked as dovishly about the housing market. So maybe the housing stocks, where's Open Door? Open Door is down 1% as well. That could be getting hit. Wow, Verizon, 42.77. 8% up on the day. That one's getting some love. You get a 7% divvy holding that stock and 7% up on the day. They are buying back their stock, which got the street to be excited. CoreWeave down 1%, losing 100. Lending Club down 0.5%. Lamb Research down 0.5%. The Qs down almost 1%. Bloom Energy, that's down 1% on the day. UPS is down about 0.5%. Where is Palantir? We are at 150. Robinhood somehow holding green on Hood, which is nice, 102. Apple's getting dumped after one of their best quarters in 4 years. That's down almost 2.5% on Apple. Deckers crushed it. They're up 12%, consumer brand, and they deserve the momentum today. I mean, they absolutely had a phenomenal earnings. So Deckers right there getting some momentum. Iran, that's down 3%. S&P again down 0.2. Where's Amazon? That is flat to down. Microsoft, little rebound, got to 440, now right back to 435. BMNR and MicroStrategy getting destroyed. BMNR getting a little bit of a green candle right there, but still down a lot from yesterday because of Bitcoin and Ethereum as those continue to go down. Oh boy, Senator Lindsey Graham is holding up the government funding deal. The dispute is now over a rule that would prevent him from getting paid in connection with subpoena phone records. Negotiations continue. That's a weird headline. Okay, so Lindsey Graham potentially holding up this government funding deal. I think it still will happen tonight. You have Chuck Schumer saying they're definitely ready to get a deal done. Apple right there, 253, and Robinhood, 102.40 on the day. What else do we have? Palantir right there is at 150. SanDisk 652. That's up 21%. Clorox is up 2.5% on the day. That's nice. Clorox up 2.5%. S&P 692. AMD 241. That's down 4%. Silver 13% down, trying to make a little recovery, but that one is still down. Rocket Lab, are we tanking? Rocket Lab. No, we're not tanking. Why is Rocket Lab tanking? 87.28. That's up 2%. Broadcom goes green. Broadcom. Yeah, it's weird, dude. AMD's down. Broadcom's green. NVIDIA, I think, is holding 192. NVIDIA basically flat today, trying to go green. The SoFi dump is very confusing, but nonetheless, you're getting a SoFi dump. Yeah, for everyone asking why it's tanking, it's not anything fundamental. It really isn't. I mean, we looked at the earnings. Earnings were incredible. Unfortunately, it's an ugly day for them to report. Just Kevin Warsh, I think, confused a lot of people when they thought it would be Rick Reader. And then number two is like, it's SoFi stock. It's always done this. Now, granted, a couple days after earnings is when it tends to recover. They've never done earnings on a Friday. So it usually happens like a Tuesday, and then you'll see a little bit of momentum by the end of the week. But you're going to have to wait till next week now to see if this plays out. Meta, by the way, 2% down. Meta had a great day yesterday. Got to 740. Tesla, 427, up a little bit. As that one is continuing to get hit. PayPal, SoFi's like PayPal. Well, the difference is SoFi's growing 50%. PayPal's growing like 4%. But yes, the stock price is acting like PayPal, which definitely sucks. Maybe investors think Noto will dilute again. I hope they wouldn't dilute. Again, they already did 2 capital raises. If they did a third one, I think they would lose a lot of investor confidence. But maybe the perception of that could be potentially negative. Microsoft right there, 435. Zeta's down 0.5%. So far, we're seeing silver and gold get hit. We're seeing quantum get hit. We're seeing big tech basically stay flat to get hit, whereas Google's at 334. That's down 1%. And high beta taking a little bit of a beating today in certain sectors. Ondas, this thing was pushing 14 on Tuesday. It's now at 11.22. Rich Tech Robotics, people got hit on that pretty badly. And that one's getting hit as well. 365. I mean, people tried to buy that at 550. Or people did buy it at 550 2 days ago. Again, some of these momentum trades just get hit pretty bad. ASTS, though, all-time highs. Again, stock pickers market. Why is this one hitting all-time highs today? I don't think there's a specific headline. But it's moving up 4.5%. Maybe could it be Verizon's earnings signaled some? I mean, I know they have a deal with Verizon, right? Could just be pumping on Verizon. That could be helping as well. JP Morgan, that stock up a little bit right there. See, that's weird. JP Morgan goes green and SoFi's red. Like if the banks are green today and one of the fastest growing banks in the country is not, that is a little weird. XLF is green. Yeah, there's your financial ETF. Is very, very weird. Space moving together. Yeah, Lunar broke through the 20s this week. This thing was stuck in like the 12s. So, I mean, this one has had a phenomenal run as well. Corey right there down about 1.3. Let's check on gold and silver again. Are they still moving down? Recovering, I mean, very little. Silver was down 15. Now it's down 12.6. So you got a little bit of a 2.5% recovery, but nothing too incredible here. Space potentially moving on the SpaceX IPO happening. The rumor is June is the IPO date. So that would be in the summer, which would be very good for these space stocks to continue the momentum. But again, there would have to be a lot of justification around SpaceX's valuation. And maybe that's where you put XAI into it to be able to make it make sense. Nebius down 4%. Again, the data center plays move with each other. Nebius right there, ugly 5%. Iran down 5%. CoreWeave is going down with it. Oracle down 2%, 165 on Oracle. The data centers have been horrible this week. House GOP leaders to delay their call today until 4:30 as the Senate struggles to pass a funding deal. I think we're going to get a lot of headlines today about the Senate funding deal going back and forth, but Trump was pretty adamant yesterday saying that they will have a deal. So hopefully they get a deal. Again, the Kevin Warsh thing is weird. I mean, to give you some context, after the great financial crisis, he called quantitative easing reverse Robin Hood. Like, I mean, like this is how this guy thinks of Fed intervention in QE. So maybe Trump wants to play into this like strong dollar reducing the debt narrative, but which is what he would be good for. It's just, he might not be the best for the equity markets. He also might not be the best for the lowering of rates narrative unless Trump knows that like Kevin Warsh understands the like what's up and what to do when you become Fed chair. So it's just confusing. SoFi is about to go below 24. My goodness. I mean, I don't want to say it's manipulation, but it's kind of hard to not say it's a little manipulation. What does Kevin Warsh mean for interest rates? Everyone's calling him hawkish. Everyone is calling him hawkish, and that means that he might not be that likely to cut rates. But I don't think Trump would handpick the guy for him to not cut rates, which leads me to believe there's some mechanism of agreements that Trump has with Warsh that makes him bullish. SoFi right there going below 24. Going below 24 on those earnings. Dude, that's a little hard to believe seeing that type of hit. 23.90 right here on SoFi. I'm buying the dip, buying 100 shares. Screw it. It'll probably go lower than this, given it looks like a falling knife right here, but I just bought 100 shares. 23.92. I mean, if they're going to deliver that to the quarter and it's going to just reverse a 10% move, whatever. At this point, take it to the 23.50s and let me buy 1,000 shares on this. I mean, this is getting kind of stupid. Broadcom 337, Rocklab 87.89. BMNR, that's down 2. Bitcoin trying to get a little recovery right here. Where is SanDisk? Is memory still going? 670 to 640. Whoever bought it at 670 is probably pissed off right now. But 640, if it can hold that level, that's still a 20% move on SoFi. OSS, are we down on that one? OSS, that's down 5%. That thing's still holding $10, which is incredible. I thought this thing would fall below 9 and give us a chance to really buy the dip. It continues to stay above 10. Where's Duolingo? Duolingo. Wow, Duolingo lost 140. When did that happen? 135.40. Duolingo is also seen as kind of like a SaaS name to an extent. Silver getting $100 an ounce again. So silver trying to recover a little bit. So you have the AI commoditizing SaaS narrative hypercharged by Duolingo because people, think AI can really hurt their business. And that stock getting hit even more. Fluence Energy. I've been looking at this one a little bit more. This one's been holding up. It's still green today, right? Yeah, 32.96. It was at $30 a couple of days ago when I looked at it. I'm trying to understand the energy ecosystem between Fluence and Bloom and all these guys and T1. It's just some of these valuations are aggressive. Now, Fluence, I think, is actually a relatively not crazy valuation. It trades at 3 times sales, which is not that aggressive. So I actually like this one, but I have not done enough due diligence on this to go deeper. Would you buy copper? I think, again, I will say this again. I think you can only buy copper if you're bullish on silver and gold. Like, it has just become very... I was telling my uncle about this yesterday. I was texting him for a while, and I was like, look, I think your research on copper makes sense, but look at the damn chart. It's following silver and gold. At this point, I like, it's been 5 days of, you put the charts on top of each other, it almost looks identical. It's hard to make the argument that independently copper should have some fundamental thesis if it's just going to follow the silver chart, unless there's a divergence, which maybe that happens soon. But if it doesn't happen, I feel like copper is just an altcoin in the precious metal space. And that's scary to me. I don't know if that's worth upsizing on a position if silver tops. And if silver does top, would anyone be surprised? No. Like, it's had a 5x run over the past year. So the fundamentals are not matching up with the chart right now, which may be where the alpha is, but it's also where the risk is at a pretty heavy level. It's like how a stock that is underpriced still goes down when the whole stock market crashes. Wait for gold and silver to cool down more. Yeah, I agree. And also, SoFi is probably going down today, getting a little recovery above 23. Probably also because the broader market is trying to react to Kevin Warsh. I mean, I don't think the SoFi price action has anything to do with the earnings itself. S&P right there still holding 693 right now. TE is green today. TE 932. Yeah, this thing was at 970 a couple of days ago. So it is still down, but it's up on the day. Was Burry right on GameStop? There was a headline yesterday that, what's his name? Ryan Cohen he has a $35 billion compensation package if he can get the market cap to $100 billion. And apparently he is looking to buy a retail company to help GameStop get more momentum. He is eyeing a major acquisition. I don't know what company he wants to buy that could extend the ability for GameStop to do well. but Michael Burry is very bullish on him allocating this capital effectively. I just think you could sleep easier at night buying NVIDIA than having to deal with Ryan Cohen figuring out how to turn GameStop around. But they have a lot of cash, and he probably will find a way to turn it around to an extent. It's just a little bit of weird strategy. SanDisk right there, that's up 20%. PMI, oh, we got PMI today, 54 versus 43.7 was the expectation. Chicago PMI 54 versus 43.7. He should buy AMC. Yeah, he should buy AMC. That's a relatively good PMI. Again, PPI was ugly, like really ugly. 3.3 versus 2.9 expected. That was not a good PPI, but S&P going a little bit down on this PMI news. We beat by about 10 points, 54 versus 44. UNH, is that one getting some love? UNH right back down to 290. Palantir, are we down? Palantir 148. We are down on Palantir. Again, this market is not the same as last year's market in terms of the major winners. The memory space, and then the drone space, and then energy space, I think, are the three sectors that claim victory for the month of January. Now, again, we're only 1 month into the year. A lot of these companies haven't had earnings yet. SaaS obviously has been decimated. Rare earths have done relatively okay, even though they've had a lot of choppiness. USAR right there, that's up 10%. Critical metals up 5%. That Reuters report was kind of refuted. Onshoring trade, Amcor, Intel, that's worked for the semis. I mean, SMH has done very well so far in January as well, but you've also had to be a bit selective if you are picking a certain semiconductor stock. SMH is up 11% to start the year. If copper is moving with silver, but copper is in a shortage already, if it isn't, doesn't that mean it will at some time move on its own when the shortage starts? Yes, and that's the fundamental point on copper, is that when the shortage like meaningfully starts affecting the supply side, that's where you see demand continue to expand if you believe in the whole copper thesis. And that's when the price elasticities should be significantly higher to the upside. I don't know when that happens. And until that moment happens, which, you know, it could happen in a couple of years. Some people are saying it could happen in a decade. Some people are saying it could happen in a couple of months. I think you have to have a bit more fundamental research on that. But it's obviously, it's a timing thing. It's hard to time that. Until that happens, I think it's just being treated as a silver proxy. And that's what makes it a bit more scary to me right here. Nebby is trying to get a little recovery, still down 4% on the day. Fear and greed at 59. It's Friday and we're getting fried today. That is true, especially on SoFi. Again, I just feel bad for Noto. SoFi doesn't deserve this price action. It's just a crappy data report. Nothing. I mean, if anyone has any red flags on that earnings, let me know, because I don't see a single one. All I see is growth, consistency, beating expectations. I think did they guide? Can someone tell? Did they guide the tech platform for 20%? Tanner, I see you're in the chat. Did they guide tech growth at 20%? I feel like I saw that, but I want to confirm. Because if they did, I think that's above the expectations, right? For the tech, yes. Okay, come on. They guided for tech growth at 20%. What was one of the biggest critiques on SoFi last year? Their tech platform is barely growing. 20% is not crazy growth, but it's damn sure better than 10%. And the street sells that off. I mean, I don't think that's the street. I think these are algos coming in that are taking a lot of different stocks down with the market. Maybe government shutdown. Again, the government shutdown probabilities are lower than expected, but yes, that could be the broader headwind across the entire market. Rocket Lab right there up 3%. NVIDIA flat, PayPal down 1%. Netflix goes a little green. Coin below 200. Carvana recovered a little bit yesterday, still down 4%. D-Wave getting hit again. CoreWeave, this was at 115 the other day. Now that's down at 2. See, that's the scary thing. The only names that haven't done this like SoFi chart this year, I mean, you can see this daily chart, right? Like the only names that haven't done that this year are the memory names. The memory names are the only ones that like have gone up. They'll take a little breather and then they'll keep going up. They won't have this full on. And I'm like, well, eventually that's supposed to happen, right? Well, maybe it doesn't, not if they keep putting up these types of earnings. Unless one day it does happen for a headline that no one expected. And then boom, memory is holding a pretty big bag. Which is why it's hard to buy into momentum. Microsoft right there, 435. As that one's up a little bit as well. Chicago PMI, again, we beat 55 versus 44. That's a good PMI beat. Market's not really reacting to it in any meaningful way. Again, Kevin Warsh is the next Fed chair candidate. He has been announced. We don't fully know how the street's thinking of him yet, but that is the announcement. Here was the PMI headline as well.
PMI, but it's not 26 months because we just jumped up to 54.0. That's over 10 points higher than we were looking for. It's about 8 points higher than the rearview mirror. It's the highest level since the last time we were above 50, which was November of 2023. Now, it's hard to gauge how equities are going to view this, because if manufacturing can get some horsepower, what does that say about the Fed's easing cycle? So this might be a, good news, bad news story for equities, but I would suspect at some point that the treasuries, which are already elevated, long rates have been going up, short rates going down today, curve steepened about 3 basis points today. My guess is this could steepen it even more. Squawk on the Street return.
I mean, it's a good PMI. It might affect the long end of the curve, as he's saying. Where is the 10-year right now? Can Tanner come on the market open? Tanner, if you want to hop on, give your thoughts on SoFi. I will send you the link. If not, I know you just got done streaming. You might be tired. But if you want to hop on for a bit, I will send you the link on X. 10-year is 4.24. That one's not slowing down yet. Gold and silver still pretty ugly. Silver's trying to move back to 105. It's at 101 right here. But still down in the day. Nvidia just went green. Palantir still down 2%. Again, I don't think the Palantir sell-off has anything to do with Palantir. I really do think it has to do with the SaaS ecosystem. But if CARP puts out some big numbers on Monday, I think that can reverse. It's just, again, Palantir trades at a pretty hefty multiple. So if they don't put out good numbers, which I think they will, but if they don't, or if the numbers are just not interpreted, I mean, if we're seeing SoFi put up these amazing numbers and still getting disrespected, that could happen to Palantir, especially because it's in the same sector as the sector that's getting decimated. And that's the tough part about some of these names over the past couple of years. Going into this month, they've just not been respected by the street. And they all have their own different reasons, but that's what's been happening. Intel right there, 48.80 as well. Nebius below 90. All right. Nebius gets hit. By the way, Kevin Warsh is a partner of Stanley Druckenmiller's family office. Couple quotes from Stanley Druckenmiller. The branding of Kevin as someone who always is hawkish is not correct. I've seen him go both ways. Kevin right now very much believes you can have growth without inflation. I could not think of a single other individual on the planet better equipped. Cactus, are these quotes that he just gave? Yeah, these are quotes he just gave to the Financial Times. Okay, so Stanley likes him a lot. Makes sense because he's been a partner of the family office. We better figure out what the hell Stanley Druckenmiller is buying in his 13F, because this is his guy who is now the chair of the Fed. Whatever Druckenmiller is buying, we need to pay a lot of attention to. A lot of attention to. And so, yeah, those are fresh quotes from Druckenmiller to the Financial Times about Kevin Warsh. KLAC's down 9%. They had a good earnings. I don't know why that's getting hit 9%. Dude, you guys are crazy. I was going to say pause after I said I've seen him go both ways. I was going to say pause. I was going to say it. I swear on my life I was going to say it. But I was like, I should be mature. I'm an adult. We're talking about financial news. We're talking about monetary policy. I'm not going to say pause after I say I've seen him go both ways. And then I look at the chat and 50 of you guys are saying pause. This is unbelievable. I thought I was being responsible and trying to do a proper market stream without being a child. And obviously it seems like I should have just said pause. But anyway, that's what Druckenmiller thinks of Kevin Warsh. S&P 692.50, T1 gapping down from 944. SoFi 23.87. Why not? Why freaking not? Robinhood, are we still holding green? Okay, Robinhood 103.88. Again, the headline on the Trump accounts, I think, is obviously very bullish for Hood. Question is, will it be confirmed, and will Hood come out one day and say, yeah, we're getting 1 million accounts added to the platform for these newborn babies that will have $1,000 immediately tracking the S&P? Because those assets are going to stay with Hood for the next, realistically, forget 30 years, like for the rest of those kids' life. And those kids will be like, oh, all my money's on Robinhood. Your money goes on Robinhood. Like, it will be a compounding machine like we haven't seen before in assets over the next decades. But Hood's got to confirm they can get these accounts. I mean, that really is a reason to go generationally long on a company like Hood. So that headline's definitely bullish, but we got to see if they can confirm that. All brokers will offer these accounts. Yeah. So again, I want to make that clear. It's not like Schwab and Fidelity and SoFi won't do it. It's just if Hood is like recommended by the government, which is kind of what the Bloomberg headline was saying yesterday. I mean, look, if Hood even gets 25% of all those accounts every year, like that's free money. That's taxpayer money just going into Robinhood and staying there, tracking the S&P 500 for decades. Like, it would be very bullish. Very freaking bullish. But in the short term, again, that's not a reason I think the stock pumps. In the short term, they have other issues with crypto. Is it worth the market paying attention to? Yes, especially if Hood confirms that. But if Bitcoin goes below 80,000, like that headline's just not going to matter right now for this stock. Bitcoin right here, trying to hold 82. SanDisk, are we still moving up? 631. It's down from 670. So again, if you bought anywhere in that range today, you're a little upset, but that one's still down. What do you think about the PSUs for SoFi? Don't you think Noto cares? I think Noto would love to get that stock to 35 and 45 to make some money on his performance stock grants. But I mean, what else can the guy do? He delivered a fantastic quarter. At this point, it's up to the market to figure out how to value this. Tanner, good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning.
I
don't know what's going on, bro.
Okay, but before we get into the stock, just like high level thoughts, the quarter, how did you think of the earnings itself?
Loved it. I probably put it at like an 8.5, maybe 9 on the stock out of 10, just because the guidance going through 2028 was so strong. And that's with SoFi often, sandbagging. They ended up giving us pretty detailed guidance for 2026. So lending is expected to grow at 23% revenue growth rates, way higher than I ever would have guessed. Financial services at 40+%. And I think that they're sandbagging there because the loan platform business is right now roughly about 50% of the total originations that they're doing for loans. And so if lending is going to grow at 23%, I think a large part of that's also going to go to the loan platform business, which actually falls under financial services revenue. And then as you highlighted earlier, the tech platform is expected to grow at 20%. Now there's a caveat that is assuming Chime was not there in 2025. So it's like, if you were to cut out Chime, it would be 20% growth. And Chime's a big customer.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay, so they crushed it on the quarter. I think everyone can understand that. Why do you think the stock is getting hit today?
For real, I couldn't tell you. Like, I'm literally, I know a lot of the analysts that cover this name. I've had a lot of them on my channel and everything. I'm getting their reports coming out right now, and they're like encouraging their investors to buy this name into strength. Like, they are saying this is way higher than our expectations. We got this from William Blair, Dan Dolev. They're all blown away by these numbers. I don't know who is selling right now, because it's not the sell side expectations are only increasing. 2026 expectations were higher than all analysts. 2028 guidance is higher than what SoFi is guiding for 2030. So Wall Street will go all the way out to 2030 in terms of their long-term guidance. SoFi's 2028 expectations is higher than their 2030 expectations. So we're going to see a flurry of upgrades over the next few days. It's just we're not seeing that on earnings day here. But I still have long-term belief, and they're well capitalized to, continue to do 30+% growth rates. And they said EPS is going to grow at between 38 to 42% for the next 3 years on a compounded annual growth rate. Like, banks don't do that.
I don't know how much. I don't know how much you looked into the Warsh news, but do you think this is a reaction to the new Fed chair, or not really?
I mean, so the unfortunate part is I looked into Warsh probably the least compared to Hasset and Rick Reeder. So I know that there's some comments about him being potentially more hawkish compared to those people, but probably not as potentially hawkish as Jerome Powell. Like, obviously, Trump is going to be putting in somebody that is going to hopefully cut rates for them. During the, from now till 2028, like in the Trump's presidency, I think that we probably end up seeing rates get lowered and fire, or essentially fuel, being put onto this economy. And I cannot see that being a bad thing for SoFi's business. I don't know how you see it.
Do you think people are afraid of more dilution, and that's why the stock is selling off, or is that concern completely irrelevant?
I would be so surprised if they diluted again. They have so much cash, it's actually like getting stupid. Like, they have essentially, whenever you look at how much SoFi can lend out, they can almost lend out because they're a fully chartered national bank, which means that they can do fractional reserve lending. So they essentially, for every dollar that they ended up diluting for, and they raised essentially $3 billion over the last 6 months, that doesn't mean that they can lend out $3 billion. It actually more closely says that they can lend out about $27 billion more dollars.
Yep.
Right? And that's not including repayment of those loans, them selling loans, and then them doing those loans on behalf of others, which is the loan platform business, which they are now doing 48% of their loans through the loan platform business. So they essentially, and by the way, their entire loan book is like 30 something billion dollars. So they just like doubled their loan book. Are they going to dilute again in the face of Noto's performance-based stock units? I know people are saying he's rich, but like, the performance-based stock units would triple his net worth. I don't care if you have $100 million or, $100,000. Tripling your net worth is tripling your net worth. It's worth a lot to him. So, yeah, I would hope that he is shooting for great performance-based stock units, which essentially means that the stock has to get to $35 or $45 by April or May.
I also just think it's the market, dude. Today, SanDisk getting dumped right here from 670 to 607, SMH down 2%, Nebius down almost 10%. Like, it's going to be tough for SoFi to move up. Like, the fact that the pre-market had it up 8% means the initial reaction was amazing earnings. This is in no way correlated, in my opinion, with the fundamentals. This has to be market momentum to the downside, which could continue, but
yeah,
it's just painful because it's probably not warranted.
Yeah. So, just to give some high-level thoughts, I am bullish. I think investors should be long-term focused on this name. If you're looking to swing trade this or something like this, I don't have any thoughts on if SoFi is a good dip for you guys. But if you guys are looking for a financial institution with massively fast-growing tailwinds and growing at 30+% rates, EPS growing at 40+% rates, SoFi has constantly beat expectations and raised every single quarter since being a public company. So I'm going to continue to just add to this name. I bought more on this dip this morning. So we'll see.
I agree. And there's not much more you can ask from a company other than the numbers they're I mean, like, at some point, everyone has to be objective and be like, look, they put up the numbers. Now it's up to the forces that be to figure out where the stock is worth. But
yeah,
it's not like they could have done better.
The market's doing its thing. I'm now starting to think if maybe there's a little conspiracy that maybe people can think of is if, the larger clients that hold this stock, like JP Morgan, stuff like this, are potentially holding it under 35 so then Anthony Noto does not get his PSUs to not further dilute and hurt the stock. Because that would largely increase stock-based compensation. You know, you've seen that in Axon or Palantir, that like you can see a massive bump up in stock-based compensation.
Right.
But that's conspiracy. At the end of the day, I'm just buying for the compounding. But brother, thank you so much for having me on. And yeah, let's do what's the next call that we're doing together, Hood?
I think so. We'll be live for Hood in about 2 weeks. Tanner, thank you for being on. There's Tanner's link right there on X. Real quick, Tanner, I mean, a lot of people are also wondering about Hood. I would imagine your thoughts are the same as mine. The stock is up a lot from the lows. Market's not really giving it a lot of momentum right now, but at the end of the day, it's made a pretty big move, and maybe there's some consolidation that's happening.
Yeah, I'm super stoked for Robinhood into the future. It looks like they're like the comp that they're going to put up right now. Q4 of 2024 was the best quarter that they've ever had. They grew revenue by 115%. Now they're expected to do over 30% growth on top of the 115% growth year over year rates. Like, that is incredible. So the way that I invest is I would bet on management and the companies that continue to execute. Robinhood, in the face of everything, has continued to find growth whenever it seems like, you know, there's like they've completely captured the market. Somehow they end up being really well timed on banking. They get really well timed on credit cards, on prediction markets. I'm going to continue to bet that they'll continue to find new verticals and make products that people really want to see. So
I love it.
Yeah, like Robinhood. I like NVIDIA as well, dude. Get ready for NVIDIA earnings. I'm super excited about this one. Like, I talk about a lot about how much, you know, money I have in SoFi or whatever. I've got more than 4x the amount in NVIDIA. So I'm ready to go.
I love it. Tanner's YouTube right there below. Thank you, Tanner. And again, thank you for the years of coverage on SoFi. I think we all appreciate it.
Thanks, brother. Bye.
All right. Kevin Warsh is going to be the next Fed chair pick. Hasset's going to be on in a second talking about it. Let's get some coverage on that. I think that is what the broader market is reacting to today, this morning.
Easy with the balance sheet. Remember, big balance sheet, stimulus. Smaller balance sheet, tighter policy. Something that, you know, when Rick Reeder was getting a lot of attention of maybe coming in, people thought, oh, this is going to be really easy. He's going to use the balance sheet in a stimulative way. Warsh's remarks in the past indicate that he doesn't like that.
Yeah, and that may be part of the reaction we're seeing, as you point out, the bond market, even the stock market. Where is the balance sheet these days, Sarah?
I mean, it's still multiple trillion. I can look it up. They've stopped shrinking. You know, they stopped shrinking it lately and started expanding it. But look, usually they like to say the balance sheet is sort of in the background and is not a policy tool. I think we're going to be hearing a lot more about it. So we're now at 6.5 trillion.
Good. I said 6.8 earlier.
Okay.
I wanted to make sure I was right.
I wanted to get it right before saying it. Remember, we peaked at like almost 9 trillion.
Right.
This was COVID, when they had to, you know, come out, expand the balance sheet again. They first expanded it during the financial crisis. And they do it to make conditions easier and boost liquidity. So it's something I think we're going to be hearing about and talking about and wondering what Warsh would ultimately do if he can get confirmed. I mean, you saw Tillis, Senator Tillis, key Republican on Senate banking, is not going to. He's going to oppose confirmation, he said, unless the investigation goes away of Fed Chair Jay Powell, and that's going to be key because they need all the Republicans they can get.
Let's continue this conversation with Rebecca Patterson.
All right, so Hasset will be on in a bit. He'll try to justify why we picked Warsh. I'll be very curious to see how he is going to be explaining this decision on Warsh. Rocket Lab, by the way, lost its pump. SanDisk lost a good chunk of its pump. Nebius wrecked. Intel wrecked. Palantir, unfortunately, getting hit 2%. I ran right here down 6%. American Express, they had a good earnings, down 2%. Micron as well lost the majority of its pump. It was almost at 460, now at 441. So honestly, a lot of names today trying to figure out how to navigate this new Fed chair that potentially will be nominated. AST, did they get wrecked? Wow, 130 to 118. Goodness, dude. It is tough to buy into strength in this market. at least on a day like today, or I mean, even over the past couple of days, you could have got Redwire for 14. Now it's at 12 if you bought into that strength. Some of these names, man, taking a breather. App Lovin's getting hit. App 5% down. It's probably also why Zeta's getting hit. Advertising in general, even though Meta crushed it. Meta, at least we're holding 700s on the Meta, which is nice to see. Amazon is up. Amazon headline yesterday, $50 billion they want to invest in OpenAI. At this point, I don't know what the hell Sam Altman has that we don't know about, but $50 billion into OpenAI. I think Jassy wants to do it because he knows Amazon or OpenAI is going to spend $50 billion on AWS compute. I don't know how else you just $50 billion, bro. Are you kidding me? Really? I don't get it. How, like, it's not like ChatGPT has 3 billion daily active users like Meta. Like, they're growing, but for Amazon to think of 50 billion, Amazon doesn't have 50 billion in cash. And if they do, they can't use all their cash on OpenAI. So there's got to be something that they are seeing in this company that we aren't seeing, or, you know, they know that they're going to buy a lot of AWS compute. But it is confusing. Microsoft right there, 437. Did anyone buy Microsoft yet? Did we get some Microsoft dip buyers? Or are people still waiting to see how this plays out? Open Door, that's down 3. Verizon trying to push 43 right here. That's still up 8% on the day. Wow, Austin says, I sold some Amazon calls and went back into shares because of that. Man, so I'm not alone that can, even Chris was a little annoyed by that yesterday. Chris was like, wait a second, why are we putting money into OpenAI? The fact that you took off some leverage because of that is very telling. It went to shares. See a decent chunk of people saying, bought the dip on Microsoft 425, 423, bought 6 shares at 427. Well, the 420s, those are up. Amit, love your stream. When will the broader 13Fs be released? Probably next week. And if not next week, then I think the latest is second week of February. But I thought it would be this week. We already got like 7 of them. We just didn't get the ones that like really matter. So I would say in the next 2 weeks, we should be seeing them. We got one this morning. Let's pull this up. This guy manages $651 million of capital. I don't know who he is. Torrey Funds is the name. Let's see if there's anything juicy here. Sold 4% of Broadcom. Bought into it, 21,000 shares. Added 361% to TradeWeb Markets. Added 5% to RBC. Added 3% to ENTG. That's a TSMC proxy. Reduced a little bit of Google. Added 75% to IWF. Russell Growth. Bought Expedia. Bought Schlumberger. All right, so nothing too crazy. We're waiting for Druck. We're waiting for Howard Marks. We're waiting for Berkshire. We're waiting for Gerstner. Those are the big ones that we want to see. Hopefully we'll get those next week. BMNR, that's down 4%. Let's see if Hasset is live. If we can see what he's saying. I'd be very curious. How is the White House justifying? No, Hasset's not live yet. Again, Warsh is a little hawkish. So we got to see how the administrations think of this. Take-Two's down 6%. Did they delay Grand Theft Auto again? Or is that one still down? He sold 92% of his Home Depot. Oh, I did miss that. Yeah. I guess he's not bullish housing. You had a couple other of the super investors buy Home Depot and Lowe's that we saw yesterday. Also, the guy sold 88% of his Berkshire. So I think with Buffett retiring, he's, you got a lot of people just leaving Berkshire at this point. What else? Is Warsh bearish for crypto? No, he actually likes crypto. He thinks that, there's a quote from him. He says anyone under 40 should be buying Bitcoin. Well, he didn't say they should be buying Bitcoin, but he basically says it's the new gold. But Bitcoin's, it's not really rallying off him being the new Fed chair.
So I'd say I think that Bitcoin does make sense as part of a portfolio in this environment where you have the most fundamental shift, for example, in monetary policy since Paul Volcker. This is a big shift that we're seeing under the Powell Fed, rightly or wrongly. So I'm not surprised in a period of dollar weakness where Bitcoin's doing what it's doing. And I'd also suggest that part of the move in Bitcoin is taking some of the bid away from gold. I think if Bitcoin never existed, gold would be rallying even more right now. But I guess if you're under 40, Bitcoin is your new gold. So I think of Bitcoin.
He likes it. Here's Hasset. Let's see what he has to say about Warsh.
You didn't get it?
Oh, no, I've got my dream job. You guys have been seeing me say that for months. I think President Trump made a great choice, and I'm really thrilled and humbled by all the kind things he said about me. You know, the bottom line is that the economic team in this White House with Scott Bessent and Howard Lutnick and myself, I think we've been hitting on all cylinders, and it's a really bad time to change teams. You don't change quarterbacks when you're way ahead. And I really have high regard for Kevin. And we're going to put every effort that we have into getting him confirmed as soon as possible so that we can get the Fed moving in the right direction.
You don't wish you did a little worse in all those, television appearances? I mean, the president basically said that he's keeping you where you were so that you can communicate because you had outdone yourself on the communication around the administration's economic policy.
I think we're a very close White House, and we're really thrilled that we're staying where we are.
What is your understanding of what Warsh's position and argument and final pitch was for the president?
Oh, I'll let Kevin discuss that himself, and his views on monetary policy and so on. I can say that when the president and I talked about me being a candidate, it was really all about, if I left, then what would happen to NEC and so on. At one point, the president said, well, you didn't ask me for the job. You never asked me for the job. And the point is, I said, well, I want to do what you want me to do, sir. And that's really the conversation is, well, I want you to stay at NEC. That's pretty much the conversation we had.
He didn't demand that you would lower interest rates when you would.
We didn't. I guess if he had asked me to be Fed chair, then at that point, that conversation might have begun.
No, but people are wondering, what if there are assurances made? I mean, the president has not been shy about what he wants to see for monetary policy.
You'll have to talk to Kevin about that.
What about this idea that, we've been sort of dissecting Warsh's views in the past, and more recently he has talked about how the Fed should lower interest rates, but also shrink the balance sheet. Do you agree with that?
Well, again, I'm going to let him speak for monetary policy, but the thing I can say is that it's our belief in the White House that we're having a massive positive supply shock, the likes of which we haven't seen since the late 90s. And that against that backdrop, you can have high growth without high inflation. And I think that the data keep showing us that that's the truth. And I think that takes a lot of pressure off the Fed. In fact, I could sort of say that our job as we look forward to the State of the Union and possible tax legislation this year, our job is to make the Fed's job easy, to lower the deficit, lower the trade deficit, be fiscally responsible, but also keep the supply side forces moving.
I don't know. Does the data really show that we can get high growth without inflation? We got a PPI report this morning that was pretty hot, 3%. Higher than expectations of 2.7%. Sure. Core rose to 3.3%.
Right. The PPI number is a little bit different right now than what we're seeing from the CPI. The CPI over the last 3 months, the annual rate was lower than 2. I think that right now we're seeing materials prices like gold and so on are up quite a bit, in part because of all the investment that's happening for artificial intelligence and data centers and so on. And the bottom line is that if we're getting a big supply side shock, then it puts downward pressure on inflation. So if people were taking all these costly materials and consuming them, then it would be a concern for inflation. But if they're going into things that are increasing aggregate supply, it's less of a concern.
So you think that inflation, the consumer price inflation numbers will do what? Go down to 2% target this year?
Well, the 3 month, if you annualize the last 3 months, it's like 1.8 or something. And so maybe, it'll fluctuate. But we're not far from target.
So do you think the Fed made a mistake this week not cutting interest rates?
Yeah, I do. The bottom line is that we're growing. Think about it. GDP now is at 5.4%. And that's with a government shutdown taking off 1.5%. So really you're looking at a number like 7. And we're talking about, are we at this side or that side of 2%? And so this idea that the Phillips curve constrains the Fed to always hammer when there's good news is being disproven by the data.
Wait, okay. So can you talk me through how we're at 7% growth?
Oh, I'm saying, well, GDP now is at 5.4.
Oh, the Atlanta Fed tracking, yeah.
And the Council of Economic Advisors at our White House tells us that the negative effect of the government shutdown is around 1.5. And so the 5.4 is despite the negative effect of the government shutdown. So if we hadn't had the government shutdown, the number would even be higher. That's my point.
So you expect that to play out for the rest of the year? I mean, we're also expecting some of the benefits of the big beautiful bill. I know the tax refunds are supposed to be pretty high this year. You think that can be added into the economy as well with no inflation?
We're seeing it. Yeah, we're seeing it already this year. It's not just waiting for the refunds next year, but the capital spending boom, equipment spending boom, because of the expensing that we put in, is really happening. All the commitments to onshore activity, in part because of the tariff policy, those are being realized. We've got a count of about 35 groundbreakings for new giant factories in the fall and in the early winter. And so the capital spending boom, the supply side increase is happening already. And now what's going to happen in this year is that people should file for their taxes as soon as possible, because there's going to be a heck of a lot of refunds for people who earn tips or overtime.
Those factory, moves are in addition to all the data centers, Kevin, that are being built around the country as well?
Yeah, that's right. Like, so for example, Eli Lilly is onshoring a lot of their production in Virginia. We have a team that keeps a list of the groundbreakings, and it's really quite striking how much production is moving to the U.S.
Yeah, because we've been focused on those manufacturing job numbers, which have not yet shown significant increases. In fact, the opposite.
Right, they've been a little bit level, but I think it's in part because the people haven't turned the machines on yet. They're building the factories in the fall.
Just to follow up on Warsh and his potential the hearings. I mean, Senator Tillis right now is saying it's not going to happen until you resolve this investigation of Fed Chair Powell. Are you advising the president, or is there any expectation on your point I should say, that this will get resolved quickly?
I think that it is an issue that should get resolved quickly, but I could also say that, the White House is highly, highly confident that Kevin Warsh is a great nominee and that he should be confirmed as soon as possible. And every single resource we have at our disposal is behind him and behind that outcome.
Do you expect, if he does get in, that you'll be working more closely with him at the Fed?
I've known Kevin for decades. Secretary Bessent has known him for decades. I think that it'll be a great working relationship.
I mean, it is strange, though, to think that if you really think that the GDP is around 7%, that arguing for lower interest rates in that environment, especially with inflation above target.
That's if you think that the Phillips curve is what's driving growth right now, but that's not what it is. It's not like a demand side growth. It's a supply side growth. And again, there's a historic precedent for this. In the 90s, when the internet started to increase productivity for companies all around, like every corner of the economy, then Alan Greenspan saw that growth was high, and he didn't try to slow it down because he recognized that it was supply side growth. And I think that, of course, you have to be data dependent. You have to watch the numbers. But if we continue to have the supply side boom that we've seen in the first half of this year, then there'll be plenty of room for the Fed to lower rates.
Why do you think interest rates are moving up right now? The 10-year yield is marching toward 4.30, 30-year yield near 4.90. I mean, yes, we're seeing a little bit on the short end lower, but pretty steady steepening here.
Well, I mean, the day-to-day fluctuations are difficult to pin on one thing or the other, but the bottom line is that interest rates, one of the reasons why interest rates should be going down, across all durations, is that we've reduced the year-over-year fiscal deficit by about $600 billion with reduced spending. We've cut federal government employment by about 270,000 workers. We've got the tariff revenue, of course, and the growth dividend on tax revenue. And so when there's a big reduction in the fiscal deficit, then you go back to Laubach's famous paper at the Fed, then you should see interest rates going down. And so I think that's basically the main current right now, is that we're being super fiscally responsible, which will take pressure off the Fed and make it easier to lower rates.
Yeah. What about the balance sheet? There seems to be a belief, based on all of his statements, of course, from Warsh, that he's going to reduce that balance sheet and fairly significantly. Would you agree with that as a policy?
Well, again, I'm not going to disagree or agree with. Right now, Kevin Warsh is our nominee, and he can speak for himself on monetary policy, and we respect the independence of the Fed.
Yeah, I mean, I do wonder if that has to do with the fact that the dollar is rallying. How about the dollar? What is the stance here? Because the president seemed to bless the weaker dollar this week, but then Treasury Secretary Bessent told me that we have a strong dollar policy. So what is exactly the attitude from the White House on the dollar?
Secretary Bessent is a spokesperson for the dollar policy, and a strong dollar has been the U.S. policy of every Treasury Secretary since I've been working in Washington for more than 30 years. And there are a lot of good economic reasons for it to want a strong dollar. And
so why do you think it's been so weak, the dollar?
Again, I think that things fluctuate, and but in the end, if we're an economy that has its act together, isn't running runaway inflation as it did under Joe Biden, is being fiscally responsible, then you should expect to see a strong dollar. But a strong dollar doesn't happen because somebody says so. A strong dollar happens when the fiscal policy actions support that.
Yeah, we had a guest who was referencing Fannie and Freddie, given Warsh's sort of expertise in that area. I'm just curious because we do expect that there is going to be a significant reorganization, the taking public as well. Can you give us any updates in terms of where the administration stands on its policy there, and or whether Mr. Warsh would play a role in that as Fed chair?
I haven't discussed with the president what the role of the Fed would be, but we've had continued meetings with the inner circle of senior advisors of the president, with Wall Street leaders to talk about next steps. But I have no news to break on that. It's still something that's being studied very carefully.
Well, we certainly appreciate you joining us to talk through the big announcement today and everything that you're working on at the White House. Kevin Hasset, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, Hasset literally said nothing. The past 15 minutes, the dude said absolutely nothing. Every important question that had to deal with, by the way, Unity down 19% on Google announcing Project Genie, which is not really a video game competitor to what Unity does, but I guess it's being perceived as that. 19% is a bit aggressive. But every question that she asked about how Warsh thinks about monetary policy, SoFi getting wrecked, he said you're going to have to ask Warsh. But it's like, well, then why did you come on the network to not help us kind of think of how the guy thinks of monetary policy, given your administration nominated him? So I really feel like we got absolutely nothing from that. And I don't think markets got any more clarity about how Warsh is going to be as a Fed chair. Rocket Lab down 5, SanDisk 670 to 609. Someone bought SanDisk today at $670. They are not happy right now. AppLovin down 6%. SoFi, I mean, we're going to see 22. I guess let's see 22. 30 cents away. That was my prediction yesterday. My prediction was they'll have a great earnings and the stock will probably be at 22. And I mean, I guess we're going to get there. But again, I think for SoFi, people should not freak out. It was a phenomenal earning. If there was a real red flag, Tanner wouldn't hesitate to, Tanner speaks his mind. He would say, like, yeah, this was not good. This is the most bullish I've seen Tanner, and for good reason on these numbers. But the market is the market. The market is the market. Why is Nebius down 9%? It doesn't deserve that, in my opinion, but it's following Iren and Oracle and this broader data center stuff. I mean, Iren was at 63 yesterday, 55. It's tough when you chase these names and they dump on you the day after, but that's what you're seeing right there. Oracle down 167, even CoreWeave getting hit down 4% there as well. Tesla, that SpaceX rumor thing, I mean, maybe that's helping out. Tesla basically where it was right before earnings now, after falling to 419, 4% up. I think the probabilities on the SpaceX merger thing are like 20%, but if it happens, it would be massive. I'm just not sure if Elon actually consolidates like that. The Iran strikes, look, over the past 24 hours, I don't think there's been a lot of updates on headlines on that. Like 2 days ago, there was more reporting that it's going to happen. I mean, maybe that's how the market's reacting. Maybe the market's upset or just preempting what could happen over the weekend geopolitically, but I haven't seen any major updates on that playing down. I think Rocket's down 15% because Warsh might be bearish for rates coming down. Maybe there's a different headline on Rocket, but all the housing stocks seem to not love Warsh as the Fed chair. I think they would have loved Rick Rieder, given how adamant he was about the housing market. Verizon, again, incredible name today. Verizon getting some love right there. 43. Wow. Dude, 8% on Verizon doesn't happen often. And I think it's being accentuated because of the growth sell-off. So people are looking for yield. People are looking for safety. Verizon's a pretty damn safe stock. What is the buybacks they're doing? What's the number on it? Verizon buybacks, 25 billion. Oh yeah, that'll do it. That's a new 25 billion, by the way. A fresh 25 billion they're going to be buying back stock on. India's PM says agreed to deepen, expand Venezuela partnership. Okay. So you got Modi working with some other people as well. Bitcoin, are we dumping? BTC, did we lose 82? She's not looking like she wants to hold 82. Rocket is down because of PSI earnings. You're probably right about that. PFSI. Penny Mac Financial. Oh my, yeah, you're probably right about that. Wow. Penny Mac Financial Services down 36%. Oh yeah, that is definitely the reason why Rocket's getting hit. I didn't even know they had earnings today. Okay. Definitely not something they said that was happy. Net income fell 41%. Pre-tax income down 76%. Yeah, Street's not happy about that one. Tesla's still holding 430 right here on the day. AppLovin is in free fall. AppLovin 521. Again, AppLovin has an ugly show. This is the tough thing about buying stocks with a short report on them. It's like, even if the short report is BS, you got to really believe that you know more than the shorts on this. And a lot of the times, the short reports end up being BS, but you just have to withstand the volatility until the market moves on from it. Roblox is down a lot as well. I guess Roblox is seen as a gaming company. Dude, what Google put out yesterday to me is in no way a serious competitor to Unity and Roblox. Now, maybe one day if Google really wants to get into gaming, which I don't know how much they care that much about it, but it's called Project Genie. You can prompt your own world. And eventually, I think this will turn into prompting your own movie or prompting your own video game. But for this video to be the reason Roblox and Unity lose 20% is a bit aggressive. So if that is the reason, I think that's a bit weird. Oh, this could be why Take-Two is down. Well, yeah, you're right. This is probably why Take-Two is down as well. All right, so we have all the gaming stocks getting hit off that announcement. Tesla still holding. SoFi trying to hold above 23. Nvidia basically flat. I don't know how Robinhood's green. I mean, I'm happy it's green, but everything's getting dumped. And I guess that Trump account announcement is the one piece of news that's like holding it up today. It hit 99 yesterday. Rich Tech Robotics dumped. Joby continuing to fall. Quantum free fall. That's down 5% on D-Wave. Royal Caribbean had a great earnings yesterday. That's down 5%. Even stocks with great earnings just getting hit. Which is the same thing we saw for SoFi. I mean, this is pretty incredible. VG right there, 972 as well. IBM down 1.3, Salesforce down 0.5%, CRML, that's up 5 as well. Again, energy is up today to an extent. Memory is losing its pump, but it's still up. Where's Micron? No, Micron just went red. Never mind. Icron now going down. You know, this also could be the end of month rebalance, end of month selling. You got a lot of people rotating. And you could have a variety of those things taking place today. A lot of options expiring. Yesterday, too, I mean, there wasn't really a reason for yesterday's sell-off. Now, we ended up recovering by the end of the day. S&P ended up flat. Microsoft still had its worst day. SaaS still had a pretty tough day. But I think today's price action is a continuation of yesterday, where you didn't see an exact reason for some of this pain. But we are indeed dealing with this pain. Do you like Shop at these levels? I've liked Shop for the past week, but I've not actually taken a position. Shopify 1/3, basically at the same levels holding the past week. The tough thing is Shopify is expensive, but it's the cheapest it's been in like 7 months. It's just, is this the environment to buy something that you know has a multiple, and that multiple can get compressed quickly if things get hit? Where's JPY? Let's see that. USD JPY. Oh, wow. Oh, this could be another reason. Wow. That's up 1% today. 154 cents. I actually think this might be a better explanation for some of this volatility. This thing needs to be going down. It's going up, which is not the best. Vicente said, Iran regime is wiring stolen funds to banks worldwide. The Treasury will act to deal with Iran. I mean, look, that could be another simple argument that the market is scared of Iran over the weekend. And it's Friday. Vicente right here just tweeted, rather than build a prosperous Iran, the regime has chosen to squander remains of the nation's oil revenues on nuclear weapons, development missiles, and terrorist proxies around the world. President Trump stands with the people of Iran and has ordered Treasury to sanction members of the regime. Treasury will continue to target Iranian networks and corrupt elites that enrich themselves at the expense of the Iranian people. Yeah, that could definitely be making the markets think there's something happening over the weekend. Then again, I don't know. There's not a real fundamental. I mean, people can point to valuations on some of these stocks. That's a fair point. But the velocity of the sell-off, like CoreWeave going from 115 to 96, I don't know if that's a valuation thing. I think that's algos and Friday and end of month and people just saying, I'm taking profits. It doesn't feel real, is what I'm saying, the type of red candles we're seeing in random places. Now, other names like an ASTS, which is already up a lot this year, falling from 130 to 117. Like, yeah, I get it. It could go back to 100. I don't think anyone would be that surprised. But there are different pockets that are navigating this. Rock Lab down 3. SanDisk still holding 600, but that is down from 670. And then Meta, 721 on the day. Did my taxes, 0 or owed, 0 return, just the way I like it. Congrats. There's no gains, there's no taxes. There's no gains, there's no taxes. Is AMD still hit? We never found out the AMD. AMD's starting to recover. It was down 6, now it's down 3. Retail's probably going insane right now with stop losses hitting. Yes, that's also probably possible. Axon, is that getting hit? Whoa, below 500 today. See, again, this is a legacy stock over the past couple of years that's done phenomenal. January has not been the month of trend for a lot of these legacy names. Just hasn't. SoFi, Hood, Palantir, Axon, Tesla, NVIDIA even. I mean, many of these, even Apple, many of these names have just been in the gutter or stuck. Which, again, you zoom out, you're like, well, that looks fine. But if you're playing them for the month-to-date return, they're obviously not giving you that much love. End phase as well. This one was pumping during the week, then it got hit. AMD's earnings next week as well. That's going to be a big one. S&P, we did hit 7,000 last week as well, or this week, 693. See, S&P's flat. Like it's just, let's pull up the heat map. There's various sectors that are holding it up, but it's not like those sectors are necessarily pushing it forward, which is why we're going to end out the month up about 1%, which is still pretty damn good for the S&P. But obviously small caps and a variety of these other high beta names have outperformed. Yeah, Tesla is one of the only green tech names. NVIDIA is flat. Everything else is relatively red. Aren't 401ks forced buying today or tomorrow? Yeah, most likely. Which is actually good if you contribute to your 401k. But I don't know if that's enough to necessarily V-shape that quickly. Do you think we get a pump by the end of the day, only to dump by the end of the day? You know, yesterday that's kind of what happened. We got a midday pump, and then we dumped again, but then the S&P ended up being flat by the end of the day, and we had a little bit more of a pump. Could I see that happening today? Sure. I mean, it could. Bitcoin above 83, but also it's like, why would it? GameStop's up 4. UNH wrecked again, 295 to 287. Money market funds actually added money yesterday. We didn't get a decrease. So 13 billion was added. We did not get 3 weeks in a row of decreasing. So you're seeing some more money enter into the sidelines. Again, broader macro bear cases, if we walk them through one by one, I don't know if those are necessarily the reasons why it's affecting the market right now. Geopolitical stuff, maybe. But that, you know, World War III, that's always a risk that's out there. Recession, the data is not really showing that. Not with GDP growth, not with labor market. Now, the PPI this morning was not amazing, but PPI is not a single recession or anything. So that is not necessarily, I think, the biggest concern. Earnings growth. Earnings growth has been phenomenal across the board. I mean, like there's maybe a handful of companies that have had a bad earnings. Every company is putting up amazing numbers, especially on EPS, which is the most important. So it's not an earnings growth argument. I think one could argue gold and silver have sucked the life out of a lot of different assets. And the high beta stuff that's in the right theme has also rotated a lot of money out of things like Amazon and NVIDIA, which begs the question, are those bubbles and they will eventually maybe not go down 50%, but take a more meaningful haircut? Or, you know, is that the theme for the next 11 months? And I'm not exactly sure how that plays out. Gold right there, still down 5. Silver still down 12%. What price would you consider buying Reddit on? Reddit's got to get cheaper, bro. 186. 186 is better than 230, but look, it doesn't deserve to go to 100, but that's the only price. 120-ish, I get interested. That's when I first bought it a while ago before I sold. Like, I don't like their valuation. When I did my deep dive on them, that was the biggest concern I had. Do they have a moat? I would say yes. They're growing like crazy. That's amazing, but I just don't like the value. I really don't like the valuation. With some of these names, it's like, you know, if they go higher, that's great, but the risk of the valuation part is concerning. Is PayPal a lost cause? I think so. Well, we'll see next week with the earnings. If they can turn the ship around by just showing some growth, I think the stock rockets up because it's obviously undervalued. But if they don't, then why not? Doesn't like the valuation, but holds Palantir. Once again, I am not saying Palantir is the best buy in the market right here. But if you've bought the stock at $6, you have a little bit of margin of safety when you're thinking of a stock that is now very expensive. Again, this has been my stance for a long time. If you buy these generational companies, like Rocket Lab doesn't have a great valuation, but Matt bought it at $4. I don't think he's too concerned about selling, even if Rocket Lab were to fall back to $50. It's the same mentality I have on Palantir. It's the same mentality a lot of people have on Tesla. That does not mean those three names are good buys at these levels if valuation is a concern. Obviously, they're expensive. No one can deny that. But that also doesn't mean you sell your biggest winners just because they're expensive. Again, the one thing that we've been talking about all week is I think people are forgetting how expensive some of these names have become. And Palantir going from 180 to 150 and chopping off 50 billion in market cap, but still being worth 350 billion. Like, I don't think it's registering with most people. Now, I think the OGs don't give a shit. All of my OG Palantir friends, no one. Like, there is zero group chats about the price action. I don't think we've had group chats about the price action in a year. That was back in 22 and 23. Ever since this thing got basically above, call it $70, people have stopped, at least a lot of the OGs stopped caring because they've been in it for so long and they could give a shit about if it goes up or down 10, 20%, especially because they know what they hold. But if you're new to the stock, like, yeah, you react to the price action and you get super scared. Same thing with Hood. But if you've been in it for a while, you can't have that level of anxiety. Because it's also just like what are you going to do? You're going to get mad at the market that they took the price to sales from 120 to 90. It's like, first of all, it's trading at average software stocks trade at 10 times, maybe 15 times price to sales. Palantir's trading at 90. Like, I just have no sympathy for people that are complaining. And it sounds harsh, but it's like, it trades at an aggressive valuation. Like, AppLovin is down almost 40% in the past couple of weeks, and it still trades at 30 times sales. If you're buying AppLovin here, it's not like you're buying the cheapest stock in the market, but you also recognize you're paying a premium for a reason, which is why Palantir gets its premium, but that also means that premium could be compressed and you can't be upset about it. Same exact thing for Hood. Same exact thing for Tesla, which right now is getting a little bit of a breakout. 438 on Tessie. Americans expected to bet $1.76 billion on the Super Bowl, says the American Gambling Association. The Super Bowl banned prediction market ads. And I don't know why, maybe because they're trying to make DraftKings happy, which is a big partner with the NFL, but they're being very selective in the gamblers, the gambling companies they work with, I guess. Ives is on Bloomberg. Let's see if I can get that up. Bloomberg stream never pops up. It's so weird. Let me see if I can get it on a different channel. They didn't ban, nor did they approve, they said. Dude, I think DraftKings made a call to the NFL. It's like, hey, we spend a lot of money. Please don't let Kalshi get some airspace. NVIDIA getting a little bit of green. Tesla as well. I don't see Tesla. I don't see a headline for Tesla, but maybe it's a SpaceX thing. That's holding on 5.5% right now on Tesla. Let's see if I can pull up Ives. No, I'm looking at the Starbucks CEO on Bloomberg right now. Let me see if there's a different stream. Oh, I have Dan. Okay, let me pull this up. Okay, let's pull this up right here.
Stuff right here on Bloomberg Radio.
Home network. Growing, services strong. I'd almost say best case scenario that you could have seen. The stock performance today, I'd say it's a massive head scratcher. I mean, this is one where I think this stock should be up 5 to 8% relative, to what they perform and the guidance. But I think it also just comes down to, and we've talked about it so much in the show, right? Is that what's the AI strategy? What's the monetization? Show us the playbook. That's not Cupertino. That's not their DNA. And I think that's why the stock's it's a little Larry David in terms of the reaction.
So how has it been their AI push? Because they have faced concerns and they've really lagged behind their mega cap tech peers.
Look, I mean, they've watched AI from the stands. And I think that's been disappointing to many, including us, because you have the biggest install base in the world. You have 1.5 billion iPhones. But now it comes down to the Google Gemini partnership is the first big step. They're bringing in outside talent, which is, I think, unique to what we've seen there. And then this is what I believe is going to build into a subscription service. I mean, that is not being factored into the stock. And I just go back to like a year ago, Look at Google. New York City cab drivers perish on it. Now today they're doing, ticker tape parades for it. You go back to Meta a quarter ago. Now look at it this quarter. So we're just going to go through this just very sensitive time for tech investors.
Looking at the Mark Gurman, Bloomberg News, his reporting today, maybe some concerns he's calling out about gross margins in the current period due to rising memory prices, also some supply chain constraints with the iPhone's 3-nanometer processor. Are all those things kind of suggesting to investors maybe we're going to have great sales, but maybe not the margins we're looking for? Is that an issue?
I think that's, and I think that's in Telegraph, but I do believe you have price increases when it comes to iPhone 18, we'll call it $100, $150. But Paul, I think like what ultimately is going to move the stock, like when investors are focused on how do you get to 325, 350, how do you have a stock with a 3 in front of it? It's not going to be sales margins. It comes down to like, lay out the AI strategy, show us the playbook. And that's why like Cook's going to stay CEO, in my opinion, till that baton's handed, because this is so important, I think, to his legacy.
And what about how it's coping with tariffs? The company said that it created a $1.4 billion headwind. Have we reached the worst?
Yeah, I think worse is probably in the rearview mirror. Now, look, that's why also playing nice in the sandbox in D.C. with Trump has been a huge positive. But it goes back to Cook, 10% politician, 9% CEO. So he's been able to navigate that extremely well. Now investors are, okay, it's go time. Show the growth catalyst. It was a huge step in the right direction last night, but
he's right. Apple crushed it. Again, the Gemini series stuff is what I think the street cares about. NVIDIA got a move right here to 194.50, then got hit. Apple just getting dumped, 254. And then SoFi looks like she's ready to go below 23. There's like 5 cents holding SoFi up. That is crazy. That is absolutely crazy. Tesla, I don't know why Tesla's getting a move. Maybe it's the SpaceX thing, but it could also just be traders hopping in to Tesla right here. I mean, Tesla's not held a single pump this year every time there's been a good headline, but it's had multiple up and downs on these pumps. Back to green on SanDisk. Where are we at? SanDisk 618. That one holding a little recovery. Maybe it pops at 20. Maybe. I mean, if it loses 22, I would think that would be some level of support. Silver and gold, by the way, T1 Energy, again, 960 to 890. That one still getting hit. Silver and gold not really making it. I mean, silver's still 14% down on the day. Gold as well, still down 5%. What are the market caps of these now? Market cap of silver. Wow. Basically lost 1.5 trillion in a day. Gold at 35.4. Nvidia 4.7. Google at 4 trillion. Apple at 3.7. It's ugly. It's ugly, ugly, ugly. But honestly, there's not enough reasoning, I think, in these headlines for why it is this ugly, other than it being ugly. I mean, even Meta, great earnings, that app loving 10% down, dude. It's like SaaS and advertising carnage together, fintech carnage, crypto carnage, a little bit of semiconductor carnage, high beta carnage, rich tech robotics down 12%. Housing carnage. Warsh, I think, really threw the market off, dude. I think people really expected Reader. And that's not what we got. That is not what we got. That's called a bear market. The S&P 500 being up 1% in a month, I don't think is a bear market. See, and that's the confusing part. It's like, I don't think that you can easily say this is bear market yet. You know, bear market tends to be minimum 10% correction, which usually turns into 18% drawdown, which is the average for a bear market. S&P's up this month. Small caps are up 5% this month. I hate being the one to say zoom out, but when you zoom out, it's like, wait a second. Things are not as bad as what people expect, even on price action. Forget the economy itself, but prices are not reflecting it to be that bad. 1.4 on the S&P. Yeah, the Unity being down 20% is weird. Same thing with Roblox. I don't know. Some weird stuff going on. Let's finish up with Dan Ives real quick, and then we'll probably end it up for today.
See, like investors, and this is going to be a narrative in this tech earnings season. Any blemish, anything investors don't like, they're going to take these stocks down. And we saw that with Microsoft and others.
Talks about China here because that's been a big an overhang for this company for the last couple of years, if not more. What do you think the status is right there about China and Apple?
Well, I think it's a lot more positive today. I mean, go back, they were kind of in the middle of a sort of old Western fight between U.S. and China. Now, as those tensions have come down, that's been a huge positive for Apple. That's why Apple and Tesla are the two tech companies that are always caught in there. I think you've seen those tailwinds. Look, it's so important. 20% iPhone sales. You need that to be a market that's showing growth. And that's why you're seeing it. They're delivering everything you want to see. But the one thing that's missing, it's the AI strategy. And that ultimately, that's really the hearts and lungs of what's going to be.
Why haven't they articulated a strategy? And maybe that strategy is we're just going to wait and we're going to partner with whoever we need to partner with. And that is our strategy. Have they said that? Or is that not enough?
Look, it's essentially the last few WWDCs, it's been a Back to the Future Michael J. Fox moment, right? Like, the point is, like, they've really been on a treadmill at 2.5 speed. I think part of it was like they were hoping it was going to be internally developed. That wasn't going to happen. They've probably been, I think, slow, and culturally, it's actually hurt them. That's why you're starting to see changes. And ultimately, they needed Google to win the DOJ suit for this to happen. If Google doesn't win DOJ suit, this partnership can't happen. Should they have bought Perplexity? Should they have done others? Of course. But that's why this is go time for Apple. And that's what the stock's reflecting. Investors like, give me something.
And do you think that they have a chance in overtaking their peers?
Look, I think when you have the biggest install base in the world and you have a Hall of Fame, Mount Rushmore CEO like Cook, you could be late to the game. But
I think Dan is articulating a really good broader Apple thesis. Unfortunately, not lining up with the markets today. Not lining up today. Apple right here, 254.94, down about 2% on the day. Even Micron getting ready to lose a lot of its pump as well. All right, we'll be back on the close. We'll see what we've got going on. I mean, again, I don't see a good chunk of headlines to explain a lot of the sell-off outside of it's Friday. You got options expiring, and I guess the biggest one outside of Iran and oil is Kevin Warsh, I think was a real shock to the market. Even last night, Rick Reeder had a 50% chance until that flipped. So as a result, I think you're seeing a lot more pain right now out there. I think I'll have a couple of guests on the market close. We'll have some friends who should be here. Chris should be on again, maybe a couple more people. And we'll have some people on the close, and we'll get their thoughts on the market as well. Word of the day. This one actually is kind of funny, to be honest. Impecunious, having little or no money. Financially strapped. That's a great day for that word. Phenomenal day. How do we say this? Impecunious.
Impecunious.
Okay. That one we got wrong. Impecunious. Stock market making us a little bit more impecunious today, having little or no money. All right, we'll be back on the close. We'll get some guests on the show. Hopefully we get a little bit of recovery. If not, it'll be a Red Friday, and that's how it'll be an end to the first trading month of 2026. All right. Thank you, everybody. I'll be back around the close. Recording another podcast with Steve today. We have a fun second guest. The podcast will be launching February 4th. I think you guys will enjoy the first two episodes. Going to head out to New York City right now. Chris will actually be with me. We're going to go to the studio, and I think it'll be fun for everybody. All right. We'll see you guys on the market close. Bye, everybody. Have a good one.